This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Everything is going extremely well.
Well, let's get back to it.
Texts and tweets and such from last night. This text says, beer is a vegetable. Well, that is just a statement of fact. It's one of your 5 a day. And if you have 5 beers a day, then you are probably the most healthful person you know. Teresa text, Nick, the pictures on your Abbot's camera account on Instagram are just stunning. And so are you in that pink dress. Or is that you in that moody picture with half a tub of product in your hair? Because you don't need all of that product in your hair. You just don't. Well, an expert has already explained that.
You don't need to put all of that product in your hair. You just don't.
No, I'm not that person in the pink dress. I was sitting on my own, enjoying a beverage. Booze. In Brighton, and then I was suddenly surrounded by a film crew who were filming something, well, I don't know, I was going to say perverted.
What?
But that's probably inaccurate. It was a bit, I don't know, it was normal for Brighton. And the pictures that I took are on my Instagram account, which is called Abbot's Camera, 2 B's, 1 T. Already unplugging. This text says, if you're doing your bathroom, it's your duty to provide an alternative toilet for your builders. I was explaining my dilemma yesterday. Please don't send me any more toilet messages. I'm up to my eyeballs in toilet messages. Because I'm getting a new bathroom, but I don't want the builders to use the bathroom before I use it, or indeed after I use it, or while I'm using it. But that's just me. This text says, if you're doing your bathroom, it's your duty to provide an alternative toilet for your builders. We had a portaloo. You could give them a bucket and let them pour it down the manhole at their own convenience. Oh. God. Did you have to say convenience? This says, good evening, Nick. I have a solution to ending the wars that are happening around the world. Take their leaders and put them in a boxing ring, and winner takes all. I don't think that's a very good idea. I mean, who would actually take all in that circumstance? I can't think of very many that were... Maybe Canada. Canada would take all. Canada and France would duke it out. My money's on Canada. This says, apropos of nothing at all, John Williams composed the theme to Jaws and Star Wars and Superman and more. Complete legend. I've got no idea what that had to do with anything that we were talking about last night. But excellent work, John Williams. Big fan. OK, and now the weather. Hot gobbets of molten metal will rain from the sky as 1,000-mile-an-hour winds tear through buildings with a high of 100 million degrees. Vladimir Putin's new red line for using nuclear weapons is intended to strike fear in the West and could lead to a very unpleasant surprise, experts have warned. If you go over the line today, you're in for a big surprise. Sing! Vladimir Putin's new red line for using nuclear weapons is intended to strike fear in the West. Experts have warned. Really? Experts have warned us that nuclear weapons are intended to strike fear. Without these experts, where would we be? The Russian leader expanded his list of scenarios that could provoke Russia to using nuclear weapons to include if Vladimir Zelensky makes fun of his hair, if Putin loses his shoe inserts that make him look taller, and if the restaurant he is in runs out of blinis and stroganoff, then it's kaboom and no one gets pudding. Nikolai Sokov, the former Soviet and Russian diplomat, said the red line was intended as a very clear message. Don't make a mistake, he said. All of these things may mean nuclear war. If you do not factor in the risks, you are likely to have a very unpleasant surprise. If you go down to the Donbass today, you're in for a big surprise. 1,000-mile-an-hour winds, a high of 100 million degrees Celsius. Don't ask me what that is in Fahrenheit. I don't think it really matters. It'll be toasty. Ukraine dubbed the threat nuclear blackmail, but assured that Rootin' Tootin' would not risk alienating himself by using nukes against the West. In my opinion, this is yet another bluff, said a former advisor to Ukraine's internal affairs minister. It's another bluff and demonstration of Putin's weakness. He will not dare to use nuclear weapons because that will make him a complete outcast. Yeah, I think he's there already. How much more cast out could Rootin' Tootin' be? And Russian security expert Mark Galeotti said, Talk is easy and has political impact, but evidence of actual willingness to use nuclear weapons is both absent and something we can detect if it ever happens. Oh, you'll be able to detect it all right. You won't have any difficulty in detecting if a nuclear weapon goes off. He says, nevertheless, Putin was more specific than in the past about the circumstances that could prompt nuclear use. They lower the threshold for nuclear use by stating that it could happen in response to Putin looking like he's losing the war, or running out of poison to put in critics' tea, or if his favourite designer runs out of dictator chic in his size. Then it'll be all over. Christmas is cancelled.
Oh, no.
0345 6060 973. George says, hey, Nick, to get Putin's finger off the nuke button, we should use our great British diplomacy. In exchange for him getting out of the Donbass, we could offer him Scotland. Don't thank me, says George. Yeah, all right, then I won't. Blimey, you believe that? Meanwhile, Vladimir Zelensky met Donald Trump. Didn't go very well. Best meeting ever, everybody says so. Donald Trump railed about what he called the impeachment hoax during public comments before his meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who stood silently by while the screaming Mimi filled the air with nonsense and whining.
I am the most fabulous whiner. And I'm a whiner, and I keep whining and whining.
Yeah, I believe you.
I'm a whiner, and I keep whining and whining.
I believe you the first time. Trump bellyached about how everyone has been very mean to him and the radical left are nasty and how he's going to get them all back, while the president of Ukraine stood there like he was Trump's babysitter.
Don't be rude.
The Ukrainian stood with Trump showing very little expression as Trump went on about their phone call when Trump was accused of ordering Zelensky to get some dirt on Joe Biden. Either he did or America wouldn't help Ukraine out. Trump said, it was a perfect call and a great call, and no one ever heard such a call, believe me. Zelensky stood motionless and silent as Trump described their phone call. He's living in a war zone, and he's probably never suffered as much as standing next to Ancient Orange, droning on about how honest and popular and great he is, and how the radical left Marxist communists are mean to him. And then he said, Vlad, maybe you need a new watch. It tells the time like nothing ever invented. A Trump commemorative coin, maybe, with my face on, or some Trump cryptocurrency, or a pair of Trump sneakers, or a Trump shirt. How about a Trump Christmas decoration? God came to me and God said, sir, you have the best decorations for my son Jesus' birthday. I said, thank you. God said he would like to decorate a tree in heaven with my baubles. I gave him 10% discount. I'm a very nice person. Let's talk about something else, because I know that you're thinking about Donald Trump's baubles. which is terrible.
And it's a disgrace. It's frankly a real disgrace. It's a disgrace.
It's a disgrace. Orpington, hello, Tony.
Hello, Nick.
Yes, Tony.
Long time no speak.
Haven't I been lucky?
Say it again?
Yes, Tony.
Yes. Now, Putin. Now, I had a conversation with, I did cheat on you, I'm not going to lie, Simon Marks the other week about this. And I think if anyone is going to push this button, or whatever they call it, I think he's a nutcase. You?
Do I think he's a nutcase? I don't know. What's the definition of a nutcase? Get a psychologist on the phone straight away.
The definition of a nutcase is basically someone who is a cornered rat, who may be losing his marbles, and then decides, well, because he's about to lose power within his inner circle,
then he's going to take absolutely everyone down around him. Any thoughts on who that might be, Boris?
I can't comment on that.
You can't comment on that. No, it does ring a bell, though.
Yes, and I think that's quite likely.
Okay, yeah, get all of your affairs in order, Tony, and don't make any long-term plans, all right?
Okay, yes. Yeah, I'm trying to be positive. I'm just watching the news now as I speak to you.
This is you being positive, is it?
Well, yes. Well, I've got... Now, let's change the subject. Now, I've got... completely changed. You know what I'm like.
No, I've got no idea what you're like. How would I know what you're like?
Oh, brains like that. Yeah, so I'm just watching the news and it's saying live from Drew. I think there's been more anyway.
Okay.
Warning!
Don't watch the news. Just turn it off right now and put on the Weather Channel. Do we get the Weather Channel in this country? Well, actually, probably not the Weather Channel these days because it's full of absolute catastrophe. But something light and gentle like. I don't know. There should be a slow TV channel. Just something you can turn on and just to put your mind in neutral and float downstream.
Groovy.
In fact, if that does not exist, then it definitely should do. And I'll tell you what, Tony, you start that TV channel up. You get the money that is involved to start a channel like that up. You get somebody to make all of the films, put it on the air, and we'll split it 50-50. What do you say?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes, he is totally on board.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's a deal. Thanks a lot, Tony. 034, that was just him being positive. About nuclear war and mass death. He was just trying to bring the programme up.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
What in places goes on inside that head of yours?
This text says, now this is in relation to a conversation I was having yesterday about I'm getting a new bathroom put in, but I don't want the builders to use the facilities after they've put the new bathroom in. I don't mind them using the old bathroom because that's all going to get chucked in a skip, but not the new bathroom because,
Disgusting.
I don't want anybody who is putting a bathroom in to actually use that bathroom. Any of it. For any purpose whatsoever. Either now or at any point in the future. This text says, make the builders a bacon sandwich and a cup of tea. Then say what you've got to tell them because you will always be the nice guy who made them breakfast and they won't take offence. Are you kidding me? They get here at my place at 7:30 in the morning.
What?
I can barely find my way out of bed at that time. Never mind about making bacon sandwiches. I'll probably set myself on fire. Other than that, it's a good idea. Thanks. 0345 6060 973. Abby Wood. Hello, Virginia.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Yes, Virginia.
I always listen to your program on Friday, which is funny, and Saturday. And then Sunday you became serious.
Yeah.
I would like you to start criticizing Keir Starmer.
Right. It's not a request. It's not a request show, dear.
You're not criticizing the Labours. I need you to criticize the Labour to show me both sides. You cannot just do it only on one side. It's conservative.
You want me to show you both of my sides?
You should start criticizing Labour. I would like to hear you slander them with Keir Starmer. What he's doing is wrong.
Yeah.
You should criticize them.
Which bit of what he is doing is wrong?
His fleas.
His what?
Mr. Keir Starmer's fleas. I don't hear you criticize them in your program.
His sleaze?
Yes, he's doing bad things. I would like you on your program, whether it's on a Friday,
yes,
on a Saturday, to come up and criticize them. Criticize
Keir Starmer for his bad behaviour and his sleaze.
Yes,
yeah, right. Yeah, okay, well, all right, well, leave it with me, Virginia.
I'll listen tomorrow with your serious
that just sounds like a threat now. Now it sounds like you're threatening me. Thanks a lot, Virginia. We don't do requests on this show. Not now, not ever, never. The freebies row engulfing Keir Starmer deepened on Friday night as it added... What? The freebies row engulfing Sir Keir Starmer deepened on Friday night as it emerged he was given another £16,000 worth of clothes by Labour peer Lord Ali.
What?
2 donations, one for £10,000 in October 2023 and another for £6,000 were made in February of this year. It brings the total accepted by the Prime Minister from Lord Ali for clothing to not even close to the fortune Boris Johnson accepted from Lord Bamford or the £40 million Rishi Sunak spent on personal and campaign flights on a helicopter paid by us poor dopes who pay taxes, or the amount the Tories accepted from the dodgy Russians both before and after the invasion of Ukraine, or the $10 million David Cameron made from the Greensill scandal. I mean, I could go on, but to list the massively larger amounts than Keir Starmer is accused of accepting that the Tories received from dubious sources would take up more than a brief 3-hour show. Is this going well for you so far, Virginia? It comes down to this. The right-wingers can't stand the fact that they're not in power anymore. that their real corruption actually had consequences for them. It's a new sensation they can't get used to. They're wildly lashing out and trying to paint the Labour government as somehow worse than they were. Not even close. I think the argument on this should start and end with, you lost, get over it. It comes amid mounting questions about the Prime Minister's use of the Labour peer's £18 million penthouse flat in Covent Garden in central London, including that he and his family were living there during the election. That freebie was valued at £20,437 for a near 7-week stay. Huh. Do you recall the right-wing outrage when Blobby Johnson stayed in a millionaire's villa in Mustique, which he said was worth 15 grand but was nearer £30,000 for the 2-week stay, and wasn't even paid for by the man that Bodger claimed it was? And Bodger spent the price of a house on refurbishing that Downing Street flat he was in without apparently knowing where the money was going to come from. £250,000 on wallpaper and hideous matching accessories. And Bodger got delivered free lunch by a butler for months on end, and got 50 grand for accommodation costs from a family that spent so much on him, it was like they've adopted him as a pet. They even paid for his wedding. And then there was the billions of pounds of PPE that was bought from friends of the Tory regime that either failed to arrive or was useless if it did. Billions that went to people who had no experience of providing medical equipment and whose only qualification was that they knew someone at the top of the Conservative Party. As opposed to Starmer, who accepted about 20 grand's worth of stuff a year since 2019, most of which appears to have been football tickets for a man who is an actual football fan and not a toff pretending to like football to ingratiate himself with the lower orders. You know, like...
this government.
Like that government. But please do go on clutching your pearls and whinnying on about Keir Starmer being the most corrupt politician on earth, you colossal, two-faced hypocrites. Isn't that right, Bodge?
I can't comment on that.
You can't comment on that either.
Blah,
blah, blah, blah, blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. I was talking about rats yesterday. This text says, rats. I got to know and love the rats in one of my local park's nature areas. I even saw a kestrel catch and eat one in front of me, something I never saw in the countryside. Unfortunately, the council decided to literally bulldoze the nature area. Even the hedges around it were where my friendly Robin lived. Because they said that rats are vermin and they didn't like homeless people hanging out there. Rats are highly intelligent, loving creatures. So are homeless people, I bet. Rats are highly intelligent, loving creatures, it says, that make great pets. Yeah, no, they don't. He said it's about time council started appreciating the joy of, perhaps, urban wildlife like pigeons, squirrels and rats. Well, that makes as much sense as anything else I've heard on this podcast so far. Podcast? It is actually going to be a podcast, but it isn't a podcast yet. Not now, later. Cowbridge, Chris.
Good evening, Mr. Nick. How are you doing?
Very well, thanks.
Oh, I've just realised that little rant you had about Boris Johnson can be summed up with one comment.
Yes.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
It's right, whatever.
Yeah, or?
This is complete nonsense.
Or that.
Yeah, I do like the whatever defence. It's just blinding.
It covers all eventualities.
Oh, it's such a wonderful defence for anybody who's right-wing who wants to try and mitigate...
For anything.
All of that.
Yeah.
All of that corruption.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, whatever. It is beautiful. It's almost poetry in its moronic...
In its simplicity, yes.
It is.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I still haven't stopped laughing from when he first did it. The purpose of my call...
Yes.
And thank you for taking my call.
Thank you for making your call.
I appreciate your appreciation.
Well, I appreciate that you appreciate my appreciation.
Thank you.
And I got that line from Rebel Ridge.
Oh, which line?
I appreciate your appreciation. I just literally 10, 15 minutes ago finished watching it.
Now, this was I talked about this in passing last night, and
I went and watched it.
And did you like it?
I thought it was awesome.
Awesome film. Yeah, Rebel Ridge. I think you will find that it is on Netflix. And what did you think? What did you think of the main character? Because all the way through, I thought, you know what, this guy could be James Bond.
He was really good. You know, he also reminded me of like a younger version of Denzel Washington in a way.
Well, he reminds me of a younger version of the black guy whose name was being thrown around as a potential James Bond. The actor that we've got here, the British.
Oh, not Idris Elba.
Idris Elba, yeah. He reminds me of Idris Elba, about with 20 years shaved off his age.
Yeah, I mean, he's an excellent actor. I mean, if I hadn't looked it up to check that he was British, there's no trace of any false accent at all.
Exactly. He was born in Brixton, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good.
And I wanted to say this name because if this is who they choose to be the next James Bond, I wanted to be the person who said it first on the air. And his name is Aaron Stone Pierre, which doesn't sound very English, but he is. And he was born in Brixton, apparently. He's 30 years old, which is absolutely perfect for the role because they'll want him for about 10 years. You know, they'll want about 3-4 films out of him. And he's, I thought he was absolutely, he had it nailed down to me. Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, it was really good. It was a good recommendation. I have to say, I suffer, I don't know if you do as well, but a lot of modern movies made in the last, say, 5 to 10 years, they're just absolute pants. They really are. They're just poorly written, poorly scripted. The plot is about as thin as toilet paper and is almost as useful. And a lot of them are just terrible movies.
Can I just say that toilet paper is actually very, very, very useful. I mean,
it is. But second-hand toilet paper, I'll pass.
Oh, yeah, that's where I draw the line. Yeah. All right, thanks a lot, Chris. Yes, if Barbara Broccoli is still trying to figure out who she's going to gift the position of the next James Bond to, then she could do worse than to cast an eye over the film Rebel Ridge, which is very, very good. And that guy in it called Aaron Stone Pierre. It just depends on whether she thinks the world can live with a black James Bond. Yeah, I think so. It just depends on who it is, right? Idris Elba's too old. It can't be any of the famous black actors from America, because he's got to be British, right? So that guy, Aaron Stone Pierre, write that name down. And you can thank me later. No, wait. I've changed my mind. You can thank me now.
Thank you.
0345 6060 973. Julie in Plymouth says, "Hello, Nick. What a bind you might find yourself in with your builders." Well, in my defence, she's put a comma after the word bind, where it doesn't go, which is why I paused, and then the sentence made no sense. Get your act together, Julie. She says, "May I suggest you email this pair, what's your problem, with Nick and Carol? They may have the answer, probably not, but they're known for their toilet humour. You can thank me later. Did you find my brother's bench?" What does that mean? You know, most of the time I've got no idea what this show's about. Did you find my brother's bench? Is that code for something? I've got no idea what you're on about, Julie. But that is a good idea. I mean, if I do have a problem or an issue or a dilemma or something that I've thought about for a while but can't figure out why something is as it is, then I could always send a message in to Nick and Carol, because they've got a podcast called What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol?
Oh, right, yeah.
In which Carol McGiffin and I try to solve people's problems while laughing like drains. Now, if you do have something like that, if you've got a dilemma, if you've got a problem, if you've got an issue that you've been wrangling with, if there's just something that you have noticed but you've never really wondered why that is, then leave it with us. Leave it to the unprofessionals. Simply send your problem to the following address: nickandcarol@global.com. That's nickandcarol@global.com, and prepare for total satisfaction.
Oh, right, yeah.
Ask for it by name on an internet near you. What's your problem with Nick and Carol? You'll love it.
Yeah.
Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbot. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
I really like you. Do you like me?
Yeah, sure, why not? And texts. Hi, Nick. Stay at home while the builders are doing their thing and tell them you have a skin condition and wouldn't like to pass it to them to deter them from using the toilet seat. No, I'm going to do nothing of the sort. Are you kidding? Yeah, I've got a condition on my, Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to explain that to them. No. I just don't want them to use my toilet. And it's not got anything to do with the seat. Well, I suppose it does have something to do with the seat, but I mean just in general. Because you know what men are like, and it's if they're standing up, it doesn't sort of go. It's not precision. It's not a precision instrument, is it? You know, it's like everywhere. Oh, I don't want them to be, coating my tiles. Laying them, yes. Coating, no. This says, I'm sorry, but after years of... Oh, okay. I'm just reading ahead to see where this is going. This says, I'm sorry, but after years of listening to you and holding my tongue, I have to start saying that you need to lay off Mr. Trump. You need to lay off Mr. Trump. What, the whiner?
I'm a whiner, and I keep whining and whining.
You shouldn't speak about the former president that way. Yes, I know I'm rude.
Don't be rude.
Yeah. Why can't you just leave him alone? He's doing his best. Well, he's a very, very smart and intelligent person. He took a test.
And it was 30 or 35 questions. The first questions are very easy. The last questions are much more difficult. Like a memory question, it's like you'll go person, woman, man, camera, TV. So they say, could you repeat that? So I said, yeah. So it's woman, camera, TV. Okay, that's very good. If you get it in order, you get extra points. Okay, now he's asking you other questions, and then 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes later, they say, remember the first question? Not the first, but the 10th question? Give us that again. Can you do that again? And you go, woman, man, person, man, camera, TV. If you get it in order, you get extra points. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy. And that's not an easy question. In other words, they ask it to you, they give you 5 names and you have to repeat them, and that's okay. If you repeat them out of order, it's okay, but you know, it's not as good. But then when you go back about 20, 25 minutes later and they say, go back to that question, they don't tell you this, go back to that question and repeat them. Can you do it? And you go, camera, man, person, woman, TV. They say, that's amazing. How did you do that? I do it because I have like a good memory, because I'm cognitively there.
You're an idiot, Donny.
You're just a lightweight. Don't talk to me that way. I'm the president of the United States. Don't ever talk to the president that way.
Martin says, evening, Nick. Looking at the British news, I can't help just laughing and want to look with popcorn and a Coke. Floods everywhere while I'm sitting dry on the largest man-made island, 8 metres below sea level. Cheers from Almere, which is near Amsterdam. Yes, I know. It's just embarrassing. You know that melting waxwork, David Frost, who somehow has managed to make a media career out of writing columns criticising the Brexit deal that he negotiated. I think the latest column was headlined to something like, the rest of the world are laughing at us. Well, he's got that right. But not for the reason he thinks. Are these people still speaking? Good grief. You have delighted us enough. 0345 6060 973. Sevenoaks, Dalen.
Hiya.
Dalen.
Going back onto the topic of politics, I don't think it's very fair the fact how all like the prime ministers and people in Parliament get to like live in wealth and get all stuff that's free, and then us, let's say normal civilians, have to live with all the costs of living and just everything like that.
I agree. That shocked you? It shocked you into silence, Dalen.
Yeah, but yeah, I just don't really think it's particularly fair.
No, of course it's not fair. Are you actually referring to the distribution of wealth, which is abysmal in this country?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, somebody should certainly do something about it. And as soon as you get a Labour government in... Oh, no, that's right, we do. Right. And it doesn't appear that that is the direction of travel that they are going in. But I suppose we'll wait till the budget and we'll see. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
All right. OK, thanks a lot, Dalen. Another satisfied customer. 0345 6060 973. This text says, Rootin' Tootin' may have been very clear, but Liz Truss is genuinely clear.
I'm genuinely unclear.
She's actually genuinely unclear. She does have the air of a person who has no idea what's going on around her, doesn't she? She just did some presentation. I can't remember what it was, but she was on Zoom, and so she was at her home. And, you know, because Zoom came into its own during the COVID thing, and everybody who was on Zoom, and I wasn't one of them, had a bookcase behind them, a bookcase that was like absolutely groaning with volumes, none of which I imagine they've ever read. I had no intention of ever reading. They're just there for, well, I was going to say for decoration, but books aren't a particularly nice thing to look at unless they're all, you know, bound as a series or, you know, a collection of volumes. But, you know, because they're all different designs and they're different colours and, hang on, different designs and different colours, and they just don't look very... There's like CDs. They're terrible. There's a really ugly-looking thing because, you know, there's just a mismatch of non-coordinating colours and patterns. But the Lizbot had behind her organised her books by colour. She actually did. I don't know what those books were behind her, and I imagine that she hadn't read them and probably couldn't alphabetise them if her life depended on it. So she had arranged them by colour, you know, like a child would. She does, and she does have the air of a person who's been hit in the head by one of the heavier volumes on the shelf behind her. Maybe the whole shelf fell on her when she was trying to put it up. Maybe that's the reason that she always looks a bit, you know, stunned. Liz, we were all stunned when you became the Prime Minister, which, you know, most people thought was a disgrace.
That is a disgrace.
Yeah, well, you're on board now, but a bit too late. You great lettuce. John in Middlesex says, Trump wins, Ukraine loses to Russia, and God help us. Harris wins, and there's a 50-50 chance of another European war, this time involving UN countries, says John, who is some sort of seer. Those are our only two options. Either God help us, or there's a European war. Which sounds pretty much like the same thing to me. James in Ealing says, Nick, that TV channel should be a continuous broadcast of Deal or No Deal reruns, which has been shown to burn fewer calories watching it than simply sitting and staring at a blank wall. What's more calming than having your brain work less than doing nothing? I still don't understand that programme. How is that a programme? Deal or No Deal. You open the box, you see how much you've won, and that's it. You don't even have to answer a question. Imagine going into an executive meeting with that idea and they said yes. I can't believe it. But no, there should be an antidote to everything that is going on in the world, shouldn't there? Something that doesn't really have content. I mean, I'm talking about sort of like mood music, you know, like not elevator music necessarily, but something you know, nice and soothing. The opposite of that. Take the beat off of that, and you might have something. You know, a little bit of Brian Eno, for instance.
Yowza.
Or carbon-based life forms.
Groovy.
That's a band, by the way. They do excellent work. I love that band. You know, stuff like that. There should be the television equivalent of that, where you can just tune on and zone out. I'm amazed that there isn't, actually, because it's all thinking stuff. Even if they're programs that you've seen before, even if it's an episode of Friends, for instance, there is still some tension there, even though you may have seen it before and you know what the jokes are before they even tell them. Because there's content, there's actual people, there's lives, and people have consequence for their actions and all that sort of stuff. Whereas what you really want is somebody mounting a camera on the front of a boat, and then that boat just drifting down a canal for 10 hours. Wouldn't that be great? There should definitely be something like that. And in America, when I went there the first time, I was stunned to see how watchable the Weather Channel was. I mean, that there was such a thing as the Weather Channel seemed astonishing to me. That's all they did, the weather. I mean, I thought, how could you get 24 hours of entertainment out of that? But they did. And it was a bit like that, chewing gum for the mind. It's basically the same thing over and over, and not much happens. I mean, once a year a hurricane will blow through, and then they'll start waving their arms around, and like standing outside in the rain, barely able to stand up, as though we don't know what weather looks like. But, that's journalism for you. But no, correct me if I'm wrong, but there should be some sort of... and snooker is sort of like that. Because as I have explained before, it's mostly green, which is the easiest colour to look at. There's tiny coloured balls, and they do something every now and again. It's not that... Well, it's a little bit tense, I suppose, if you get into it. But it's chewing gum for the eyes. There should be a TV channel like that. Especially now, what with everything that's going on in the world. None of it good. 0345 6060 973. Bath. John.
Hello, Nick.
John.
Do you know what you just said now, chewing gum for the eyes? I can imagine von der Leyen saying that. Chewing gum for the eyes?
Ursula von der Leyen? Oh, no. That's the wrong one. Ursula von der Leyen. There you go.
That's it. Do you know what I was going to say to you? I know it's an unfortunate thing to say because I'm not trying to be funny here because I'm incapable. But, do you know, you've got a case of physician heal thyself, because I think you're going to have to ring up what's my problem with Nick and Carol.
Yes.
And ask, what do I do if I'm worried about my builders using my euphemism?
Exactly. I'm going to ask Carol that on the next podcast that I do. I'll pretend that it's not me asking it and see what she says.
A bit of a croaky voice. I was just wondering.
No. It's not a phone-in. People send a message in, and I read it, but I'll pretend that it's not from me.
That's it.
And I know she'll go off on one. What do you want to be complaining about that for? Like she is.
What's wrong with you?
Exactly.
Yeah. But anyway, I was talking to your. I'll follow what you said yesterday. Your
receptionist.
Yeah. Or secretary, you said.
Yes.
But anyway.
He ain't my... Here, take a letter. See? You don't have any idea what I'm talking about.
He's not impressed. But, no, I was having a chat with him, and I was just thinking about bizarre kind of musical facts about musicians, and I can give you a couple of them. I'm wondering if you have more, because I'm always interested in stuff like this. For instance, Les Paul... the famous guitarist who obviously invented that guitar, had a stroke. And when his arm lost its feeling in his right side of his hand, he had his surgeons break his hand and reset it so it would hold a pick.
What?
Yeah. And stuff like that really fascinates me, because it's like you've got that, and you've got like the drummer of Def Leppard saying he's a better drummer now that he has one arm.
Well, he would say that, though, wouldn't he? I mean,
but also Chet Baker, after he had his teeth knocked out, once he relearned to play again without his teeth, said he was a much better trumpet player. I'm just wondering, are there many stories like that? I find it fascinating, the idea that you're going to get someone to break your hand and put it into the shape.
Well, I've never heard that about Les Paul. I mean, I know about Chet Baker, who got his teeth broken for finagling with somebody he shouldn't oughta.
Yes.
And maybe the stuff that he played after that was a bit more West Coast cool than the sort of more boppy stuff that he used to play before.
Yeah.
It was a bit more sort of calm. But then he was older, I guess.
But Nick, I tell you something. As a guitarist as well myself, it's like I suffer from kind of like a form of rheumatoid arthritis, and I can kind of play, and I could actually see myself setting my hand to hold a guitar pick. I could actually see why he did it, because it's like you know, as long as you can hold the pick and move it up and down, if your left hand works well and can run up and down the neck of the guitar, Bob's your uncle. But it's just like, you know, I know about this. I think a few other musicians know about it. But I'm sure there are more stories like this.
Well, Jeff Beck.
That's a book.
Jeff Beck, there's some videos going around of Jeff Beck playing. And later on, you can see he has to shake his hand out because it's either very uncomfortable or he had some sort of maybe like a repetitive strain injury. Or,
yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a form of that.
Right, yeah. Because you're putting your hand in a certain it's quite an unnatural position, isn't it? And you're constantly like you've got stress on that hand all the time. So he looked like he was in a bit of pain as he was playing. It didn't seem to affect the quality of his output, though.
Yeah. I'm sure there are more stories like that out there. I'd be interested. I mean, that'd be a little book I wouldn't mind buying if someone was to write something like that. But anyway,
rock stars' medical conditions. It'd be like a whole chapter on Keith Richards. Have you seen Keith Richards' hands? By the way,
I know.
Wow.
Oh God, yes, I have. But the thing is, as long as it enhances their playing, I think it's a positive book.
Yeah.
You know, if it's weird or it's a superstition, I'm not so interested.
No.
But if it actually allows them to play and use their gift, then I'm for reading that book.
Well, if you write that book, John, I'll split the proceeds with you 50-50. How do you say that?
I'll give you 60. I'll have 40. As long as you write the forward.
John, 70-30. That's my final offer. Thanks a lot, mate.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Are you trying to be funny? Because I'm all out of laughs.
There is nothing funny about it. This text says, "Hey Nick, thanks for the Rebel Ridge recommendation. I watched it today. It was excellent. Aaron Pierre is très cool." Yeah, he ain't French either. English. I'll say it again. Aaron Pierre, what's his name? Can't remember the guy's... I could look it up. I've just forgotten momentarily. But he could be the next James Bond. Trust me when I tell you. Chris in Stubbington says, "Hi Nick, I walked into a shop today to buy a drink and a roll. And I handed over a £10 note and the cashier looked at me as if I was handing over something unpleasant and then said, 'No cash accepted.' What a country," says Chris. I know, we will miss it when it's gone. Take the KASH. 0345 6060 973. Tooting. Hello, Jan.
Hi, good evening.
Yes, Jan.
Yes. I don't know whether you heard. I'm wrong to make a point about when Keir Starmer addressed the Labour Party conference, when he spoke about his childhood and how important music was for him.
Mm-hmm.
That when he started to learn music, he learned several musical instruments.
What kind of music?
How it changed his life.
What kind of music?
Oh, he was doing classical music. Actually, I didn't know. I thought it was really interesting because he was doing so much. He was part of. He also became part of the Croydon Youth Orchestra, but he played so many different instruments. He did the piano, the violin, the flute, and this is very young, yes. And I thought it was interesting because he was based in the Croydon Youth Orchestra, and I used to go to school there. But at that time, it says that the schools, local schools, state schools, were well funded for music provision.
Yeah, not no more.
No, because every girl in my school I went to, one of the schools I went to in Croydon, had to learn an instrument from the time they went to the school, whether it was a recorder. It didn't have to be something grand. Right. And there was provision. But now what's interesting is that he's saying now he wants to redress the degrading of creative arts and music in state schools.
Yes.
Isn't that great,
It's
Nick?
excellent. About blooming time, somebody had an idea about education that wasn't just producing robots.
Affirmative.
Yeah, because, I mean, the thing is that Where is it now? Yeah, because I think when these private public schools are going to have to pay that, for VAT for the kids.
If they do.
Well, if they do, yeah, a lot of them may have to close down. But
Right, no, I mean, if that actually happens...
Oh, you think it might not happen?
Yeah, but go on.
Anyway, but the thing is that there was the thing about these schools, these public schools need to offer more bursaries so that poorer kids get the chance, to go.
No, they don't. They just need to pay their tax like every other business. That's all. The poor people who can't afford to send their children to a private school need to stop subsidising the well-off who can. And I have talked about this so often. I'm not going to entertain a discussion about that tonight. Not one solitary single syllable further.
But you know what, Nick? I mean, it's true. It's true. I think.
Are you still talking about this subject?
No,
I've just drawn a line in the ground, Jan.
Nick, no.
I'll nuke everything if you cross this line.
What line's that? No, I was going to say, I always remember you saying the Beatles never knew how to write music or do anything, but they still...
I never said that. I said the Beatles didn't know how to write music. What kind of an idiot would say that? I never said anything of the sort.
No, but apparently they didn't. I just stumbled... Oh, I thought you said that a long time ago, some time ago, when I... You said it wasn't necessary for all these, the Beatles. None of them knew how to write music, but they...
Oh, you mean actually write musical notation down?
Notation.
Right,
yeah,
okay.
notation.
Not that they didn't know how to write tunes. Okay, I got it now, right. Well, I think that, wasn't that one of those famous stories that Paul McCartney said, that he woke up one morning and yesterday just sort of came to him. No, I may be mixing my stories up. I think the story with yesterday is that he played it to somebody and said, "Where's this from?" And he played yesterday, and the guy said, "Well, I've never heard of it before." And he kept asking people, where is this song from, not believing that he had just invented it asleep. And it all came to him in a rush, on waking. But I think there was something else that was really, really famous, and somebody couldn't write it down, so they had to go straight to a tape recorder and play it, because otherwise they'd have no way of remembering it. Hey, Jan, I've got to go, but thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. This says, Nick, I'm surprised you haven't mentioned Bodger in the mail saying he almost ordered an aquatic warehouse raid in Holland to recover COVID vaccines. The stuff that bloke comes out with.
Yeah. Where
I mean, you'd almost be forgiven for thinking he's
the great big greedy nincompoop.
Yeah, great big greedy nincompoop. And I think that the Daily Mail has been repurposed as the Daily Boris. I mean, every other story on the Mail Online is Boris Bloomin' Johnson bellowing on about some nonsense or other. Most of which, it looks like, to me, he's just invented out of thin air. Liar! Exactly. Well, I might come to there's one particular eye-popping claim that he has made. Well, actually, there's loads of them, but one that struck me. I'll come to that in a minute. Leave it with me. Kevin said, no, read that one. This says, if it must be okay for Lord Starmer if Boris did it, lol. Yeah. Thomas and Derry says, hi Nick, where have all the Politics of Envy brigade gone? Why aren't they fuming at the Tory press for printing stories about skiers' private affairs? Where have all the Politics of Envy brigade gone? They're still there. Why aren't they fuming at the Tory press for printing stories about skiers? Okay, right. Yeah, all right, I suppose so, yeah. That is an angle I hadn't considered. Leonard said, rats do absolutely make affectionate pets. More affectionate than most people, for sure, says Leonard. Oh, well, as he added for sure on the end of it, then I suppose it must be a fact. I'll go out and get a couple. I'll cuddle them during the break, and I'll report back. 0345 6060 973. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
You're joking.
And I can't stand him.
0345 6060 973. Where am I now? Dan says, have you heard about the ship with 20,000 tons of explosives drifting off the Kent coast? What? Well, it's not drifting, is it? I thought it was stuck to the bottom. I thought it had become beached. But it is disintegrating, and if that blows up, then a tsunami wave will engulf low-lying London. There's nothing funny about that. This says, come on, we've had the silly sound bites from the Tories for the last few years on your lefty show, but Starmer's "we must bring back the sausages" has to be right up there. Let's have it on the show. Nick, come on, your lot are going to mess things up just as quickly as the last lot. Impossible. You can't mess up something that is already messed up. You can only improve it from this point out. We've got about as low as you can go, and the only way is up. The only way is up. Baby. Dislike that song quite a lot. Monica says, Nick, the rat that lives in my back garden is very pernickety. He or she will never, ever walk on the grass, but minces up and down the path like a furry Larry Grayson. Is that true? Is that true? London Colney. Hello, Mandy.
Hiya.
Mandy.
How are you?
I'm great, mate.
Good. This swanky posh bathroom you're building, or
Yes.
not you, your builders are building.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind about your friend Putin, don't you think you should maybe be building a bunker?
Oh, right. I should be boarding up the windows and turning the bath upside down and hiding underneath it. Yeah, that's a good idea.
You should. You could build a bunker. You're going to need it.
Right. What if I'm living in a flat?
You're not,
I could
are you?
just dig down into the
You've got
flat
a garden,
below.
haven't you?
Well, it's not a garden. I wouldn't call it a garden. I call it a yard.
You've got a yard. That
I've got
must
a
be
yard.
on the ground floor then.
Well, I suppose so, yeah.
And you're going to need it. It's all going to kick off, isn't it?
I think I'd rather be one of the first ones to go. Because
Why?
if you survive the
Who's
initial...
going to talk on the radio? No, you can't do that, Nick.
Silence. If you survive the blast, then you're going to have a very miserable, short rest of your life.
Very, very low listening people.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be radio stations
No,
after the
really.
blast takes out London. No, not really.
What, I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
Would it all go off the air? I suppose it would.
Yeah, I would reckon it would, yeah. I mean, because all the methods of broadcast would be down, all the aerials and that, and the way to get it onto the internet, that won't work. And, life as you know it will be
Hang on a
over.
minute, hold on. I don't understand nukes, but say it happened in, God forbid, I don't know, Birmingham.
Yeah.
Or should I say Birmingham? Would that affect London? I don't know.
Only in as much as it would take longer to get here from Birmingham.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you'd have to negotiate a pothole the size of Wales.
Oh. But it wouldn't make the televisions go off.
Why would they bomb Birmingham?
Have you been there?
Yes, there's nothing wrong with Birmingham. I found Birmingham to be quite a delight. They've got the most magnificent library and an excellent, two excellent galleries, to my knowledge.
They've still got libraries, have they?
Well, they built a new one, which is an
Wow.
extraordinary facility. It's got
That's
books
amazing.
in and everything.
It's got what?
Books.
Real books?
Yeah.
Not Kindles and things. Real
No, I
books.
mean, I didn't actually use any of the books. I used the cafe, and I went upstairs and looked out from the uppermost part of it. But I believe that there are books, if that is something that you're into.
I'm not a reader, to be honest.
No.
I'm a game player. I'm not a game, I'm a word game person. But if it went off in Birmingham, I didn't say Birmingham, did I?
Yes, you did, Birmingham.
Okay, let's go a bit further north. Liverpool.
They're going to bomb London. London is where it's at, Mandy. And I don't know where I don't know where London Colney is. Where is that?
It's just north of London.
Okay, well, you're going to go too.
Thanks.
And if you don't go straight away, then you'll be going shortly afterwards. All right.
But will it be a slow?
Yes.
Will I suffer slowly?
I tell you what, as soon as the warning comes in, warning, I would take the quickest route you possibly can to the very centre of London, because you'll want to be the first to go.
I won't. Why?
For the reasons that I've already explained. Are you listening to this show? Hello? Gotta go. Thanks, Mandy. 0345 6060 973. Ruth texts, Aaron Saint Pierre, so brilliant in Rebel Ridge, and as you say, would make such a great Bond. This is starting to be like a wave of it's like an appeal to the people responsible for the James Bond franchise, Barbara Broccoli and whoever else it is. Yeah, you've got to hire this bloke. You're dithering and it's taking too long. Just get on with it, for crying out loud. We are in serious want of some grown-up action movies. Phil in Lowestoft says, Nick, the next James Bond should be Jack O'Connell, but don't hold your breath because James Bond is over. It's done finito. Yeah, no, it isn't. For one reason, that reason. Yeah, it's not over. It definitely isn't over. I mean, spoiler alert, they did, maybe I shouldn't say what happened in the last one, because there will be people who haven't seen it yet. It's not a very good film. The last one they made, not very good film. In fact, it's one of the worst. But at the end, it did seem to be curtains for that particular James Bond, but I don't know how they're going to get around it, but there will be another one. He'll be called the same, but it'll be totally different. How would you get around killing your main... Oh, there you are, I've spoiled it for you. Killing your main character and then coming back. I don't know how they're going to get around that, but they will find a way because of money. And I've said Jack O'Connell for a little while now, because he's the guy in Starred Up. It was very good. And he looks like a thug, and he looks like the kind of a bloke who's been in a fight a lot. Whereas this Aaron Saint Pierre, this black actor that I saw in that film Rebel Ridge the other night, he doesn't look like he would have been in a fight that lasted more than about 2 seconds, because he would have won it in that time. He looked the part to me. But let's not talk about that. Let's not get bogged down on that whole Bond thing again. Southampton. Hello, Gavin.
Hello there.
Hello there.
How you doing?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, not too bad. The lady just saying about Birmingham and that. So they test nuclear bombs all the time. So if you can imagine a nuclear bomb landing in anywhere.
They test nuclear bombs all the time.
They used to, didn't they? Yeah, and it
yeah.
doesn't affect you in other parts of the world. So it goes roughly, for one landed 2.5 miles out from where it lands. The winds go about 200 miles an hour. But obviously it creates a vacuum, and technically you can't have a vacuum. So once it goes in an instant out about 2.5 miles, it all sucks back in. So the blast, if it went off in Birmingham, wouldn't affect you in London. But what affects you is if lots of them go off at once, and then the cloud goes up and it goes above the atmosphere and it blocks out the sun. And then for roughly about 10 years you get a nuclear winter. That's what destroys the world, because it goes to about 200 minus 20 degrees for about 10 years.
Well, now, hang on a minute. First of all, we were talking about the destruction of Birmingham, and no offence, but I'm perfectly OK with that. And now you're talking about the destruction of every life on Earth.
So, for example, there's about 4,000 nuclear missiles each. The 5 mile radiuses that they cover doesn't cover the surface of the world. The explosions, as bad as they are and as devastating as they are in that particular area, and the gamma rays and the delta rays and all the cancer that goes with it, that will kill the people in that area. But the people that are nowhere near the blast, what happens is all the clouds go above the atmosphere and they block out the sun.
Yeah.
And that's what destroys the world.
No, what will destroy the world is that your credit card won't work anymore, and neither will there be any cash in the cash machine, and shops won't open, and food won't be grown, and there'll be absolute panic and riots on the streets in about 2 seconds flat, and we'll all kill each other.
Do you know what really upset me is, because I'm a fanatical Tottenham fan, I just know this war in Ukraine will overspill when Tottenham are finally top of the league. And that will really upset me.
Yeah, now you're just talking fantasies, Gavin. Thanks for that. That's the good news. He was just trying to cheer us up.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that. This text says, I will reserve judgment until after the budget, but defending this Labour government, and specifically Keir Starmer, is becoming increasingly embarrassing. I am starting to feel my vote for change was somewhat naive. For crying out loud, it hasn't been 100 days yet, people. You're falling for this right-wing lashback that it's just one baby scream. They're not in power anymore. And so this is what they're doing. They're trying to destroy everything. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister and his wife were supplied with clothes paid for with donor cash and did not declare them. What? But that's not that Prime Minister and that Prime Minister's wife I'm talking about. You remember George Osborne? Bill! Yeah, that's him. George Osborne let slip on a podcast that the former Tory leader David Cameron and David Cameron's wife were supplied with clothes paid for with donor cash and didn't declare them. He said, in the case of Samantha Cameron, the Conservative Party, out of its general funds, money that had been donated to it, did provide money for the leader of the opposition, as he then was, and the Prime Minister, to look smart for his wife to look smart, and for his wife to look smart. But there was not a direct link to a donor, he said. And then the podcast host Ed Ball said, so donors paid into a pot, and the pot was then available, so presumably you wouldn't have to declare the party doing that because it would have been normal party expense. Tory leader frontrunner Robert Jenrick a few days earlier had criticised Starmer for going, in his words, going round with a begging bowl to Labour donors to pay for designer clothing. Disgusting, he said.
Disgusting.
That's what he said. Hey, Alexa, can you show me an example of a plank? And when the news emerged of Mr. and Mrs. Starmer not immediately declaring gifts of clothing from Lord Ali, a Labour peer, the Conservative Party demanded a full investigation. But Cameron didn't declare any gifts of clothes or cash towards clothing on his register of interest while Prime Minister. But he did declare other donated freebies, including but not limited to £7,500 worth of free personal training sessions. He also declared honorary memberships of the Carlton Club and the Ellsborough Golf Club. Private helicopter and train travel from 5 different firms, and 2 designer lamps, if you please, worth £749.
What?
For lamps. During his time as opposition leader, he was also gifted at least 2 Fortnum and Mason He was also gifted at least 2 Fortnum and Mason hampers and 12 silver goblets by named party donors, as well as borrowing a Subaru Outback over Christmas of 2007, which was on loan from billionaire businessperson Robert Edmiston. On Sunday, Tory former Minister Chris Philp declared that getting someone else to pay for your clothes was weird. And if there's anything, if anyone that knows a lot about being weird, it's Chris Philp. It's just got too much. It's just got too much. They've seen their chance to pull this government down before they've even got started, and they're just going all in. I mean, you think that they'd be too embarrassed, that the various Tory types who are chirping about this would be too shamefaced, considering what they put us through for the past 14 years. But apparently shame has left the building.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
He stuck it in his pocket and it went out with him. This is just getting ridiculous now. And all of the figures that you've been hearing about Keir Starmer, I mean, it seems like, you know, it adds up to £100,000 or something of that order. And people are reading that as though he has accepted that amount since he became Prime Minister. No, it's over the past 5 years. And most of it was for football. But I told you this would happen. I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. The moment that the Labour Party won, the Tories and all of their client media and the various hem sniffers and hangers-on would all start blaming the Labour Party for everything that is wrong with the country and forgetting everything that the Tory Party did to this country for the past 14 years. And the mind-boggling amount of corruption and underhand dealings that went on during that time. Hoping beyond hope that the public will forget all of that, which, in large number, they appear to have done, almost straight away. Amazing. Wake up, sheeple. It's later than you think.
This is LBC. This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
This is absolute tosh.
Thanks, Nige. You're the best. Kitty says, Nick, you need to watch Talking Pictures. It's a TV channel. Lots of black and white films to switch your brain off to. It's the only channel I watch now, says Kitty. You're living your life in black and white, Kitty. Try stepping into the 1960s. You never know, you might like it. Yeah, but that doesn't really... Yeah, all those black and white films, that's not really fair to switch your mind off to. I'm talking about real chill-out television. Slow TV. And every now and again... Often at Christmas, they'll put on like a couple of those slow TV things. Like a couple of Christmases ago, there was a reindeer. What would you call it? Like there was a reindeer like route thing. Reindeer pulling a sled from one place to another, which was about as interesting as I'm describing it. But if you just turn your brain off. 2 hours later, you are fully relaxed. Almost nothing at all has happened, and you've been sitting there rapt. We need that these days. We need to just tune out. 0345 6060 973. Devon, hello, Rose.
Hello, Nick.
Rose.
Well, darling, I had 2 quick ones I was going to do, very self-effacingly. Mm-hmm. And then I've actually got 4 things now.
Right.
And the first is, what were you just saying about...
Rose, we're going to have to pick up speed if there's 6 things you need to get through.
Well, it's just that I keep being, drawn by things you say and other people say. The whole thing about tuning out.
Yes.
I was telling your blessedest...
my blooming assistant.
Glamorous assistant,
mm-hmm.
The other day. I think this is why I just have basically Radio 3 and LBC and all my, my records, because everything's too much, But anyway, the thing is books, Nick. I cannot agree with you about that. The whole point about bookcases is that they're all different, the books, all different colours, all different spines.
Yeah, but it's not nice on the eye. It's not.
It's wonderful on the eye.
It isn't. It's not an attractive thing to look at.
Well, we're very different in that way, aren't we?
Well,
because I absolutely love it. I'm looking at them now.
But is everything else in your house mismatched?
Well, books aren't supposed to match. They're not clothes.
Well, no, actually, they are supposed to match. If you go into wait a minute. If you go into an old house, like a stately home, and they will have a library, and all of their books match. They've all been bound.
Yes.
Well, exactly. They've all been bound to match.
Yeah, but they don't read them. They're just there to. No, I mean the thing is, modern books for years and years now have had wonderful covers.
I'm not disputing that they might look nice individually, but you put them all together and it's just a mess.
Well, it's interesting, you see, isn't it? Because that's how you see it. I just see it as life.
Well, life is messy, yes, but you don't need to drag the mess into your home.
Well, we'll have to agree to disagree, won't we, on that one? I knew we would. I could tell.
I mean, do you have matching plates? Yes.
Some.
Do you have matching cushions? Yes. Do you have matching sheets?
Of course I don't have matching cushions.
You don't have 2 cushions that are the same?
Well, no, I don't think so, no.
Oh, blimey, your house is a catastrophe, Rose.
It is, actually, but for other reasons. Let me advance. May I advance?
Yes.
Yes. Well, it's about radio, really, you see. And 2 LBC's presenters I just wanted to give a bit of praise to, apart from you, of course. The wonderful Simon Marks, you know, who's so good with you on a Sunday.
Yeah.
He did a great tribute to Maggie Smith at the end of his show.
Oh, yeah.
Today. And it reminded me that she was at my school. I hasten to add, long before I was.
Oh, yeah. Which school was that?
Oxford High School, same as Miriam Margulies as well. It's funny.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And her English teacher made her want to act by the way she taught literature. Wasn't the same teacher as I had, obviously, but mine was absolutely brilliant as well. So there was that. But the interesting thing was, it's a sort of juxtaposition, because Simon was in for Matt Fry, who was obviously off somewhere, but by coincidence, he was then on Radio 3 at 1 o'clock, an hour after Simon's little thing to Maggie Smith.
Well, we probably don't want to mention that on LBC.
Oh, do we not?
I don't think so, no.
Oh, well, no, it was a pre-recorded thing.
Right, are you still mentioning it?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought it would be good to mention it.
No, I don't think so, no.
Oh, well, all right, then I can't even say he was good.
No, what else have you got?
Well, yeah, I'm sorry about that, Nick. I didn't realise that.
No, that's okay.
I thought it'd be positive. Hard Times by Dickens, not that I've read it, but I know a little bit about it. And it's, this is in the Radio Times, you see, that's what I mean, radio. It's being adapted on radio.
Right, well, we probably don't want to mention that either. You're not really getting with the programme here, Rose. You're talking about the competition.
Oh, I see. Yes. Well, no, not really, to be honest, Nick. I'm talking about Hard Times, really. But perhaps I better not, as it's being dramatised somewhere else, had I? No, a bit better leave that out.
Well, times are hard enough as it is without reading a book called Hard Times. No thanks. Have you got one that's called Fun Times?
Well...
No. Well, Rose, I think I'm going to have to leave you to see if you can't find online another cushion that matches one of the mismatched ones that you already have.
Oh, well, it's a relief, really, that I haven't had to say all those things, to be honest.
In order to balance up your room. Try it, you might like it.
No.
She's very, very uncooperative. Thanks a lot, Rose. 0345 6060 973. She mentioned it briefly, but I think we got away with it. Steve in Wimendham, there's no such place. He says, I need your wisdom, Nick. Do I get a kebab or a bag of chips for the wobbly walk home from the 50th birthday party? You get a bag of chips, Steve. A kebab is too messy. It's too messy to walk with, never mind about wobbly walking with it. And plus, mystery meat. Could be anything in there. Chips, definitely chips. I maintain that there is something that potatoes produce when they are fried that is like drugs.
Yowza.
It's like drugs to the brain, because there is nothing else in the food family that gets your brain spangling quite like chips, is there? I mean, the closest is crisps, which is the same kind of thing. I think that there is some sort of drug that is produced. I mean, not, enough to make you go... Not that kind of drug, but I mean, it gives your brain a little tickle, chips. And it must be produced when the potato is cooked at a very high temperature in fat. Because there's nothing else that makes your brain spangle quite as much as chips. You wouldn't steal any item of food off somebody else's plate apart from a chip. Now, I know that there is the portability of a chip. If you nick it off somebody else's plate, it won't necessarily fall on the table. But you could say the same for carrots. And does anybody steal a carrot from anybody's plate?
No.
No, not now, not ever, never. It's never happened in the history of humankind. Chips, on the other hand, you need to be really quick, or the table, or everybody else on the table who has not ordered chips are going to have all of yours. You know they will. So trust me when I tell you there, Steve, chips, not a kebab. Because the kebab is just going to end up all the way down the front of you. You know it will. Sean in Brighton says, I think there ought to be a channel showing Test Card F for 8 hours a day. Relaxing stuff and extremely cheap to broadcast. Is that the one with the girl and the doll? And the crossword? Not the crossword, what do you call it? Crisscross thing. Thing with the crosses and the circles. You know, the thing with the... never mind. This text says... Chris in Nottingham says, our resident squirrel scammed 4 biscuits off my wife yesterday morning. For the first biscuit, he jumps up at the French windows to grab attention. Subsequent biscuits, he stands good as gold with his little paws clasped like he's praying. Good as gold. We scuttled off and nearly buried them somewhere. Oh, he. Yeah, that makes more sense. Chris didn't bury them. The squirrel did. He scuttled off and clearly buried them somewhere. My question is, do you think this is a sign of a harsh winter coming? No, I think it's a sign of a stupid squirrel. That biscuit's not going to be there when he comes back. And nor will he remember where it is. They're just tree rats with furry tails. Don't let them inveigle their way into your life. I wouldn't trust them. I wouldn't trust them with my nuts.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Please hold the line. I'm trying to connect you.
I am trying to connect Simon in Southampton. Hello, Simon.
Hi, Nick. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
Got a few things, actually, for you.
Mm-hmm.
Just incidentally, squirrels. I have seen more squirrels this year running while I'm going out and about on my travels than I think I've ever seen before. They are everywhere.
Yes. Foxes are everywhere. Squirrels are everywhere. Now, do squirrels eat our rubbish? They don't, do they?
No. No, they're not really... No, they don't really like Tories. Anyway. Talking of which, you listen to them and you listen to their pitches for the leadership.
Oh.
First of all, isn't it terrible that we've got the same old faces?
Yes.
That's all we've got.
It's like a Hammer House of Horrors on repeat.
And they are still saying the same things that we've just binned.
Exactly.
How stupid are these people?
But they're not appealing to us. They're trying to appeal to the geniuses that gave us Liz Truss.
Absolutely.
Enough said. What else have I got for you? Oh, yeah, did you see that Pink Floyd video I gave you on YouTube? Pigs.
Which one?
Pigs, 3 of them. Or 3 different ones, I think. It's the video of the live concert in Mexico, I believe, and it's got all those pictures of Donald Trump on it.
Oh, was this the Roger Waters gig? Not Pink Floyd?
Yeah, beg your pardon.
Right. Yeah, I have seen that, yes. The thing that he did, I think I mentioned this last week, and I have mentioned it before. It's called Us and Them. The tour that he did called Us and Them. That's available on video, and it has one of the most amazing theatrical coups I've ever seen.
What's video, Grandad?
Why, you little...
2 more quick things,
yes.
And then a serious point. So, congratulations on actually finding yourself watching Tay-Tay.
Watching what?
Taylor Swift.
Oh, yes. I saw a video, and it came up on social media, and I thought, is this Taylor Swift? Because I don't really know what she looks like very well. I mean, you know, I wouldn't be able to pick her out of a lineup if she wasn't wearing something odd.
She's lovely and she's very talented. And I don't expect you to call yourself a Swiftie yet.
No,
I am.
But it did make me laugh, and I thought this video is going to infuriate all of the right people. So she gets my vote.
4,500,000 registrations to vote after she
really
gave her endorsement. Yeah. They said the very next day after her endorsement, the registrations to vote went up by 400,000, something like that.
Well, that won't make any difference unless all of those people actually do vote.
Well,
that's the important part.
It'd be nice if they all lived in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, or Arizona. That would be better.
Oh, yeah.
What is it with Arizonans, by the way? I mean, why are they so stuck on the whiner?
I'm a whiner, and I keep whining and whining.
Arizona seems to be the last state in the union that is a swing state that is still determined to vote for Donald Trump. It's absolutely mystifying.
All to do with the border, isn't it?
Maybe the heat is affecting their brains.
Yeah, all snake bites. I listened to the new Beyonce country album the last couple of days. I thought that was quite good.
Well, the more you listen to it, the better you'll like it.
Yeah. Now, my last point, and it's a complaint.
And finally.
Yeah, I've got a complaint. And I would just like to say that I'm not angry. I'm just...
Disappointed.
Disappointed, yeah. Mr. Starmer. Now, I backed that man to the absolute hilt. I made no secret of it. And in the last week alone, I've been accused of killing all the pensioners and bringing about the end of humanity.
Of civilization as we know it.
Yeah. So, not much of a responsibility on my shoulders. Now, I am not going to make a judgment. I don't necessarily agree with a couple of things that have happened, but, I'm not... you've got to do a lot more than that to turn me.
Yeah.
But I will say this, Mr. Starmer, Turkey, sort it out, mate, because you are the one thing that is going to determine whether in 4 years, stroke 5 years, we get a Farage government.
No. Well, we will get this bloke back.
Yeah.
I think that's much more likely.
It's much more likely to get a Farage government if Trump wins. This is the thing. See, I was wondering about this, right? Because obviously he piggybacks a lot off of Trump, then he Farage.
Piggyback. Well, that's not the position that I imagine him in, but okay, piggyback.
Yeah, go back to that. Yeah, go back.
Don't say it. Just don't say it. Just leave it to our imagination, Simon. Trust me.
But a lot of what he does and says depends on Trump, and I'm just thinking, all right, last time it was glorious because he put a $10,000 or a £1,000 bet on that Trump would win. This time round is absolutely critical, and to be honest, I don't know what we're going to do if Trump wins. I really don't know what we're going to do, but it's going to empower people like Farage, and it's all we're going to hear.
Yeah, I don't think that's who we are as a nation. Every now and again, for my entire life, there has been a far right-wing party that just pops its ugly head up and it gets about, at most, 13-14% of the vote, and that's pretty much exactly what he's got. And then they just die away and they become something else and they're called something else and then they pop up again and... we're not going to go down that route.
Why don't they just take their money, right, and just go and enjoy themselves?
Well, you think so. I mean, you think you get to a certain level of wealth and you'd stop grifting, but apparently not. No. All right, thanks a lot, Simon. Got to go. 0345 6060 973. Talk about grifting. Have you seen... Donald Trump's coming out with new ways to try to extract money from his, his stupider fans. It's practically a new product every day. If you go to the Donald Trump website, then they've got pretty much everything that you can imagine. They've got ties and polo shirts, and they've got dressing gowns, and they've got pajamas, and they've got presidential Christmas baubles, and it just goes on and on and on. They've got water bottles and... this, that and the other. Pretty much every business that Donald Trump has started that hasn't actually folded or gone out of business in some way or gone bankrupt is available on his website. And he keeps adding to it day by day. The presidential coin. And the blurb that comes with the coin, which has it's got his face on it.
I'd like to punch him in the face.
Yeah, I agree with you. It has his face on it. This a memorial coin to how did he describe himself? The most unprecedentedly patriotic president ever. I think those are the very words. It's something like that. Buy my presidential coin. It'll be worth a huge amount of money. He wants a huge amount of money up front. Or crypto, because, Donald Trump knows a lot about crypto. The thing that he said was a scam about a year or so ago is, surprise, surprise, what he's selling now. Trump crypto coins. Don't ask him what the business plan is. Don't ask him whether you'll be able to sell it if you buy it. And don't ask him anything about it. Just send him your money. That's all he wants. And now he's selling watches. I think it was it Marco Rubio or one of those dinglings from the right wing of the Tory party. He said when they had a debate a long time ago, Marco Rubio said, you know what Donald Trump would be doing if he wasn't running to be the president of the United States of America? He'd be selling watches on Times Square. And now he's selling watches.
What?
Yeah. He's just not standing there with them lined into his coat on Times Square. He's doing it online. It's a beautiful watch. Nobody has ever seen time like it, believe me. $100,000. I'm not kidding. $100,000 for a Donald Trump watch. Anybody want one?
No.
No. But it's a pretty good way for, a foreign company or somebody who wants the law bent to their precise specifications to inveigle themselves into Donald Trump's good side by buying one of his stupid watches. And it's just as garish as you could possibly imagine. I mean, think Russian prostitute chic. Are you allowed to say that?
No.
Well, that's what went through my mind. I mean, they are hideous. Of course, it's all gold or a gold-coloured metal. But if you haven't got $100,000, then you could always sell your home. You could sell your mobile home that you're living in Arizona, and buy one of his $100,000 watches. And if you still can't afford that kind of money, then he has cheaper ones available. Of course he does. All from his very, very successful businesses.
I've been successful in every business I've been in.
He's failed in every single business he's been in, apart from the business of convincing people of low IQ that he is a successful businessman. He could be the best con man in history, but you have to be a certain level of intellect to fall for it. What do you say, Kanye?
Whoop-dee-dee-scoop-poo.
I couldn't agree more. Your husband's a con man, Melania.
I don't care.
She's actually not that bothered. Prenup. He's not getting any of her money.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Hello, number please. Trying to connect you. Sorry to keep you waiting.
Here's a call in East Scotland. Ellie.
Hello, Nick. Just to say, I was thinking about that slogan about tuning in, turning on and dropping out.
Yeah.
And that was the 60s, the start of. And just to sort of think about the chaos that we're looking at now, in contrast, if you'd had 60 years of that sort of anti-materialistic movement, they're concerned about the planet and the ecology, there's hope for the future. I wonder what our planet would look like now, because that was a pure renaissance. And we thought we were sort of going somewhere, and a lot better than where we'd been, as in the Second World War and all the other things that have brought it to that point.
Well, I'm not sure that any of that's true. I'm not sure that if the entire world tuned in, turned on and dropped out for 60 years straight, I think we'd be in the right mess.
No, I don't. You miss the whole point, Nick. It wasn't all about turning and tuning and dropping drugs and dropping acid. It was more about how you thought about the planet and the way forward. And this planet that we now inhabit is purely being brought about by extreme right-wing ideology, in other words, capitalism. And it actually doesn't work. We know it doesn't work. It only works for those small section of people, that few 5%, but the rest of us are 95%. It doesn't work.
All right, hang on a minute.
It doesn't work.
Hang on a minute. But what you're suggesting didn't work either. All those communes...
But it did.
Hang on a minute. Wait. Those communes didn't work. And the evidence of that is they aren't there anymore.
You're talking about... Yeah, because I think the whole thing was that in 1979 that Thatcher came to power, and the whole thing got shaken up and turned around. And we're not saying that there wasn't a little bit that actually deserved to have that. But we then started this kind of crusade on to the privatisation of everything. And as we know, selling everything off, and everything's quantified. And in fact, we've kind of destroyed, I think that we've actually destroyed our own country with that ideology. That this is now the result of that. And
right,
if
but,
we
but you're talking about two different things.
Yes.
Okay, but
How?
but they're not. Well, they're not related, are they? People people living in communes doesn't have anything to do with the Thatcher government selling off our electricity and our gas and our water and our trains and our buses and etc. and so on.
I know, Nick, but we weren't all living in communes, you know. There was only probably a small percentage. The thing is about the 60s and 70s and the 80s is that it kind of run out of steam, I think, a bit.
What did?
People were, you know, with the 3-day week and the unions, etc., that's how Thatcher came to power, wasn't it, really? The 3-day week, the sort of unrest. And that's when her ideology was then put into motion, and that's why we're now in the state that we are, because it's all the result of her policies of privatisation and chopping down the ruins, etc.
If you're talking about that, then yes, Margaret Thatcher had a long-lasting negative effect on this country and still does to this day.
Yes, unfortunately so. The other thing I'd like to say is that Trump, he says he loves the uneducated, the poorly uneducated.
Those are his fans.
And these are the kind of, well, we have now right-wing press. I don't know that we've got much else on offer, and right-wing media and right-wing owners of newspapers. And we're only getting really that side of the kind of argument.
Well, it depends.
There are
other
apart from LBC.
There are other options available, Ellie. The Guardian is not a right-wing organ. Neither is the Mirror.
So few. Really. There's so few, you know.
Right.
How many of them are there against the rest of the right-wing press media and everyone else?
Well, that's because the news it has to be new, and in order to catch on, it has to make you either scared or angry. And that's a right-wing thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So we don't really have much of a democracy, Nick, because we're only really getting one side.
Well, it depends.
You know?
There's a thing called the internet, Ellie, on which you can read both sides.
Yes. But, of course, the everyday Joe basically gets, you know, the news. I don't know what. They'll tune into the news and they'll see what's happening.
Yes.
That tends to be, you know, I'm afraid, the BBC, etc. And we don't exactly get all of the truth from them, do we, really?
No, but all of the truth is available to you. You just got to seek it out. But I do know, I do know what you mean, and that's not what most people would do. They just take the most sensational form of news that they can, because that's the one that tickles their brain so. And that would be the right-wing press, because that's what they do for a living. They make you scared and angry.
Yes, I mean, that is pretty horrible in a so-called democracy, to have to control like that with that kind of power.
Right.
It really is an abuse of power, actually, and we don't actually have it. Yeah, and so we ought to grow up and get more around the table with each other and go the European... I don't know, but the country is in a hell of a mess, and people want... They want the depth, they want simplicity, they want to go back and think about actually what's happening up front. Right. And it's chaos. In fact, the last point is that there is a seer, like Nostradamus, that has predicted various things in the past and coming into the future. And her one for 2024, and I didn't look too hard at it, is not all that good for the end of the year for 2024. But not that I want to freak people out, but you're better to prepare for the worst and then try and have the best.
Well, it depends whether... It depends how bad the worst is. I mean, is it worth preparing for, or should we just ignore it and carry on regardless?
Well, you can't really prepare for it because, in a way, it's quite a dangerous thing. But no, you've got to, so they say, plan for the worst and think about the best, and that's all we can do. And I think we have got to work together, and that's the only way that we can get out of the state that we're in.
Well, if the human race, the human race is going to get out of the state it's in by working together, then we're never going to. Then we are never going to get out of the state that we are in, because that's not what we do. We cooperate up to a certain point, and then we start fighting with each other. That's the history of the human race. That's why we're number one, is because we have the ability to cooperate to beat an outside threat, which would have been saber-toothed tigers or hippopotami or, you know, whatever it might be, or a lack of rain or too much rain or, you know, whatever. We'll cooperate with each other until we're safe, and then we'll start fighting each other for what we have saved.
That is the planet that we're on, isn't it, really? We don't seem to be able to learn very much, actually.
Well, that's not the planet we're on. That's the species that we are. That's who we are. I mean, we're not number one on this planet because we're nice. That's not how you get to the top. All right, thanks a lot, Ellie. And by the way, there is no such thing as a seer. No such thing exists. I mean, they might say, vague assertions about what may happen, and some of those assertions may come true, and then you might think, aha, they had some sort of foresight. They are tuned in to, the universe and everything, and can see the future. But you know in your heart that no such thing exists. Nobody has ever been able to see the future. You might have been able to predict things. Like I will predict that Kamala Harris will win, but that she might not necessarily actually get to go to the White House because the other side are going to be cheating. Well, they already are cheating their faces off. It's just a question of whether they get away with it or not. That's my prediction. But I do believe that she will get most votes. But then Hillary Clinton got most votes and she didn't win either. It's a screwed up... Their system is even worse than ours. Hang on, I'm going to have to cough. That's better. I predict that this thing that I caught about 4 months ago now is eventually going to go. Eventually. Thanks a lot, Ellie. Thanks a lot for, really parking a dark cloud over the rest of this year. We haven't got much longer to go. It's practically Jesus' birthday already. And this seer is predicting negative things. 0345 6060 973. This text says, we've had so much rain this month and it got so cold so quickly I've had to dig out my winter clothes already. Personally, I blame Meghan Markle. Is there nothing she won't do for attention? Yeah, thanks a lot, Meghan Markle. No! Blooming freezing outside. It actually is blooming freezing outside. I can't get past the fact that 2 years in a row now, the 1st of September came around and it was instant autumn. You know, just when you thought, just another week, please. No, it's been ripped out of our hands. Pulled from underneath us. Yanked from our grasp. And other metaphors. But it's just not fair. It's not fair. I mean, I've got 2 layers of wool on. I've just taken a heavy layer off. So that would be 3 layers of wool. I've got my thick woolen socks on. I've got a heavy winter coat on. I'm still blooming well cold. But you know me, I never complain.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
I just can't stand that we've got another, what is it now? October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. It's almost 10 months of misery to go before it gets nicer again. And, of course, in a couple of weeks' time, the clocks are going to go back.
Oh, no.
Yes, I can't stand it. It's so dark and so cold out there and it's so wet and... Never mind, eh? We'll all be dead soon, according to that seer. Yeah. This text says, this Tory leadership beauty pageant, I was wondering whether it was too late to have a new candidate. Perhaps a horse. I mean, if it wins and fails the job, well, it's a horse. And it can't do any worse than any of the other candidates. Well, that is true, yeah. And if it loses and it's no good, then, a horse would have other uses. You could ride on it. You could make soap from it. Unless that's an offensive thing to say, in which case I'd withdraw it. Robin Truro says, hi, Nick, it's not chewing gum for the eyes, more like toilet paper for the mind. When satellite TV first came out, there was a German channel that just showed videos of Earth from cameras on satellites and the shuttle. I used to spend hours watching that. That sounds good. I would like that. Oh, I know what's good. You know what? I haven't watched this since last winter. Hang on. It's on YouTube. They make, in a computer, they don't make the actual room, but in a computer, they will make the inside of a room of something that looks like where Oprah Winfrey lives, something like that. It's this vast room with huge scenic windows looking out onto some beautiful vista. and there'll be a fire in the grate, and there'll be a cup of steaming coffee on the table there, and there'll be an open book on the sofa, and it looks like somebody has just got up and walked out to the kitchen to, get themselves a biscuit or something, but it feels like you're in that room. And because it's been created by a computer, nothing actually happens. I mean, the fire goes and the steam comes out of the coffee, and then occasionally you might see a bird fly by the window, but there's no tension involved because you know that nothing is going to happen. You could watch that for hours and nothing will happen. You might see the same bird go by every now and again. But because you know that nothing will happen, there is no tension there. And so there is a certain relaxing quality to it. I recommend it. I mean, the other thing that's good on YouTube is videos of fires or fish tanks, stuff like that. So actually, there are things like that that are chewing gum for the mind. But it's not on TV, it's on YouTube. And it's created by a computer.
Affirmative.
In order to get us to let our guard down, and then it's curtains for the human race.
Affirmative. On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
Some nobody.
So they opened their big mouths, and out came talk. Talk, talk.
You will be stunned to learn the newest revelations about Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer once took a pencil home from work. You believe that? On the other hand, James Cleverly, in the running to be the leader of the Conservative Party, secretly plotted a £30 million raid on public cash by offering asylum seekers sweeteners to go to Rwanda before the election.
What?
In the run-up to the election, Home Office staff carried out a 3-day blitz in March, offering lucrative packages worth £150,000 each to 200 would-be volunteers. But in the end, only 4 accepted the offer as the Tories desperately tried to get people on the planes. Under the former Home Secretary, Mr. Cleverly, and 1,000 civil servants were assigned to the Rwanda project. This is 20 times the number working on tackling violence against women and girls. This is according to the Sunday Mirror. They were willing to throw away £30 million of your money to get some good headlines to help them win the election. And they send people to jail for flinging soup. But, of course, the people responsible for this will not go to jail. They will go to the House of Lords.
Oh, fabulous.
Sources reveal that asylum seekers were promised 5 years of free accommodation, food and private health care, along with training up to degree level if they agreed to go. The 4 who did so were also given a cash card with £3,000 on it and a new mobile phone. These packages will cost taxpayers £150,000 per person up to 2029. But remember that the Conservatives are the party of law and order. And they are the party of fiscal prudence. And if you believe that, I've got a Donald Trump real fake gold memorial coin I'd like to sell you.
Don't be rude.
The 4 who accepted the £150,000 bribe to go to Rwanda were the only asylum seekers to be sent there despite over 2 years of Tory bluster and legal wrangling. And by the time the project was scrapped by Labour in July, £700 million had been spent on it, with the cost set to rise to £10 billion in the coming years. But please do tell me more about Keir Starmer's glasses. Civil servants told asylum seekers they would enjoy benefits in Kigali in Rwanda that they could not get in the UK. The average worker in Rwanda earns less than £200 a month after tax, and a litre of petrol currently is 89 pence, and a pint of beer is 83 pence.
Booze.
Labour says the drive for volunteers demonstrates Rishi Sunak's desperation to send people to Rwanda in the build-up to the election. Mr. Integrity.
This government will have integrity at every level.
Yeah, right. Whatever happened to him, by the way? All too easily forgotten. Not forgiven. The document by the Independent Chief Inspector of Borders and Immigration from January this year, when Mr. Cleverly was Home Secretary, says, there are reports that some parents in refuge camps receive money for their daughters' work in domestic service, tea plantations, or in the sex industry. There are also reports of the sexual exploitation of adolescent girls who are lured from refugee camps with the promise of paid work. They said while the most common types of trafficking are labour trafficking and sex trafficking, there are reported cases of youths being lured to countries such as Malawi and Mozambique, where they're forced to join armed groups. The document published this month by the Home Office was drawn up while the Tories were pushing through the Safety of Rwanda bill.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah. The legislation declared it was a safe country to send asylum seekers. The chief executive of charity Care for Calais, Steve Smith, said it was abundantly clear from the outset that the last Tory government was willing to ignore all manner of human rights concerns to push through their brutal Rwanda plan. And you can add sexual exploitation and trafficking to that list. Amongst the 1,000+ people we supported who received Rwanda deportation notices, there were pregnant women and minors. He said anyone who wants to resurrect the Rwanda plan, giving the mountain evidence of human rights concerns, is not fit to be this country's leader. And Cleverly and Jenrick are competing against Tom Tugendhat and Kemi Badenoch to succeed Fishy Sunak as the worst Britain Got Talent episode ever. None of them are fit to run a bath, let alone a country, and a quarter of the population actually voted for them to keep doing it at the last election. Hey, wake up, sheeple. It's later than you think. 0345 6060 973. Oldbury. Hello, Ranjit.
You're right, mate. You're absolutely on fire today, mate. You know what?
Somebody put me out.
Yeah, you want to see Rishi Sunak? He's gone into his hotel today, right? And when he comes out of this black Audi, right, you want to see him. He's like, if he was on one of them, like a pogo stick. Remember they used to bounce on them? Do you remember?
I remember pogo sticks, yeah. They always look like a health and safety fail to me.
Yeah. So if you get your glamorous assistant, right, and look at the news and you'll see him walking into the hotel where he's staying in Birmingham, which is literally about, I don't know, 10 minutes from where I am, about 3 miles, if that. Yeah. So they're all having their jolly here now. You know, I'd love to be a fly on the wall in some of their offices.
Can you imagine, though?
Boring.
A fly on the wall would die of boredom.
No, they're going to think of new ways, right, of fooling the public, right, and the public actually learned that everything that they did, you know, we're not going to believe them. But
I don't know. I think the old ways of fooling the public work just fine. Just make the public scared about other people that don't walk, talk and squawk like them, and tell them that they are coming for your money and your homes and your women, and that'll do the trick just fine.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I was younger, they used to say, you know, is it DSS, you know, Department of Health and Social Security, tax, and they used to blame all the Johnny foreigners on that. And I used to say to people, mate, listen, you're looking at a Johnny foreigner here. Oh, no, you're all right, mate, you're all right. I said, okay.
Yeah. Well, anyway, they only say that to you because you were about to serve them food.
No, this is before I did the food. You know when I used to be a truck driver, right? No. People, I used to be a truck driver before I did this, yeah. And people used to say to me where I worked, right? I worked for a real international logistic company, yeah. Yeah. They used to say to me, Ranjit, are you Indian or are you Pakistani?
What was that? Like the first thing they said?
Yeah. No, I mean, seriously, right? They say, are you Indian or Pakistani? I says, well, actually, I'm British.
I'm British, yeah. Why don't you go back to where you came from? What, Oldbury?
No. Yeah. After said that. And I said, hang on, why do you ask me that, right? And they used to say, well, to us, you look all the same. I said, well, my parents are from India, and until you British divided it into two, we would have been all in one.
Oh,
right?
that sounds like that sounds like. Oh, what's the phrase that they use? No, no. The right wingers who are trying to take over the National Trust. They say that is misremembering history. That's not the phrase that they use. What is it they say?
I don't know.
No, I don't know.
They just think I'm what they call it, woke. They say you're being woke.
Rewriting history. That's it. And when they say rewriting history, what they mean is you're telling an accurate description of what this country is responsible for. That's what they mean by that.
Yeah. So I thought I need a way, right?
And he just got cut off. Wow, it's a dream come true. He just cut himself off. Nothing to do with me. But we'll never know what it is that he was about to say. We're just going to have to put up with that. This text says, the American that called yesterday was talking about words that are no longer used in the UK. Someone said to me the other day, Gordon Bennett, and I wondered what that word means. Gordon Bennett? Who was Gordon Bennett? I mean, I know who Gordon Lightfoot is, and I know Arnold Bennett makes a fabulous omelette. Omelette Arnold Bennett is a wonderful thing. I mean, if you've got a restaurant near you that serves omelette Arnold Bennett, then get one of those with chips on the side. Oh, and then you can thank me later. Oh, I would like that right now, as a matter of fact. So yummy. But Gordon Bennett, I've got no idea who that was or why it is used as an oath. No help at all. You're welcome. Here he is, back again. Hello, Ranjit.
Oh, yeah. I think, you know what, you're being tracked, and I've been tracked as well.
Yeah, well, I know you are. Yeah, you're on several lists. You are.
I know. I'm not sitting by a window. Right, so I thought there's going to be a way. I'm going to get my own back on these guys, you know what I mean? And I thought, you know what? I went to this one guy. I said, mate, listen, can I ask you a question? He goes, what? I goes, are you English or Irish? I'm English, mate. I ain't Irish. He goes, why you ask? I said, well, you look the same to me. Right. Anyway,
you know, that thing that you look all the same to me, that's not a racist thing to say. That is just the truth. Because, I mean, cats, if a black cat, two black cats will look pretty much the same to us, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't to a cat, because cats are attuned to the differences in their faces, just like we in the West are tuned to the differences in the faces that we see the most of. And it's like hands. You can tell your own hand, but, you know, pretty much most hands look more or less the same, but not to the person who owns them. They don't. And so it's not people who are deliberately trying to be insulting who say that, you know, all Chinese people look the same. They don't mean that all do. What they mean is they have difficulty telling the difference in the same way that they can tell the difference with Western faces. That's just a statement of fact.
Yeah, I know. You know, like if you look at medicine, right? And they say sometimes you can have a throwback, right, where you look different to your parents, right? Now, I would never have believed that, but in America a few years ago, somebody had twins, and one was black and one was white, right? Okay. So these things can happen in nature. Now, I want to talk about the orange, Mimi, yeah? Because he goes on about immigration, right? Obviously, he's Scottish, German, and a little bit of this and a little bit of that, right?
Yeah.
He's going on about this, right? And about Kamala Harris or whatever. And Boris Johnson, and all the... Corella Doberman, yeah? She's lost her name now. I'm going to bring you back. You're going to call her Corella Doberman all the time. These people, right, are playing the race card, but they actually, if you think about it, who was the natives of this country, right? And they say we're a Christian country. What was he before it was Christianity? And then,
we're not going to talk about history now, are we?
No, not talking about
I can't stand it.
No, you're the age. Did you see Damien Omen 2?
No.
Okay, Damien Omen 2 is like a horror film. They reckon that the second coming of the devil joined a military school and became the president of the USA.
Oh,
right? That's a film from the late 1970s.
Yeah.
And isn't history repeating itself? So
well, I think you might be right there.
I can be more presidential than anybody.
Somebody should check under whatever that is that's floating on the top of his head for 666, just to make sure. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So you're going to wait till he's asleep, right? Take his nappy off, right? And he might be stamped on his bum.
On his bosom, yeah. But, somebody should look into that very strongly. All right, thanks a lot, Ranger. I'm intrigued by the couple that had one black and one white baby. All they need is another 22 like that, and they got their own chess set. Thanks a lot, mate. 0345 6060 973. This says, hello, Nick. The best slow TV programme I watched showed the steam engine The Jacobite travelling from Fort William to Mallaig. Stunning and nostalgic for me. It was on years ago, but maybe it is available on one of those internet things. Oh, that does sound like something to watch. The trouble with a steam engine, though, is that it's just a train. Like, if you're on one of those trains that's being pulled by a steam engine, like a locomotive, then it's just a train. Until you stick your head out the window and you look forwards, and then you can see the thing that is pulling you. At which point...
Warning, warning!
Your eyes will be full of hot ash. I did that once. It was one of the worst experiences of my life. Because you couldn't go anywhere, because it was one of those old-style carriages that are, separate from any other carriage. It didn't have a corridor running down it. It didn't have toilet facilities or anything like that. And I looked out of the window ahead at the steam locomotive that was pulling us, and, of course, all of that smoke that comes out is boiling hot ash, which filled my eyeballs like it was 2 shovels worth. It's a good job I had a bottle of water with me, because I probably wouldn't be able to see right now. It was awful. So if you learn nothing else from this show, then, well, I suppose you'll have learned nothing else from this show. But at least you'll have learnt that. Don't look forwards if you're travelling on a steam train. Do not stick your head out the window. Which makes the whole point of travelling on a steam train a bit sort of null and void to me. Because you don't know you're travelling on one unless you can see it. But you can't see it unless you want to go blind. I'll just add it to the list of things that are, upsetting. Not that I'm complaining or anything.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
LBC. Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
What are you talking about?
This and that. John in Wandsworth says, John Martin, he of the album Solid Air, that. He had his right leg amputated below the knee and still kept playing using his pedals and prosthetic limb. And he had a Les Paul. I didn't know that. Did he? He kept playing using his pedals? What, the guitar? A guitar doesn't... I don't know. I guess it has, like the wah-wah pedal. I did not know that about John Martin. The stuff you learn on this show. Educational, no?
No.
I saw John Martin at Glastonbury. One of the first years I went to Glastonbury. This was back when you could park in the same field as the pyramid stage. Yeah. None of that. You have to, like, a 2-hour walk back to your car in the dedicated car park, and then you have to trudge all the way back again. None of that. You could park next to your tent in the pyramid stage field. Take that, kids. And it was a beautiful day, and John Martin just sort of wandered on. And I don't remember it as, as... It was a significant moment for me, but it won't be for you, because all he said was, this is nice. And it was. And that was when, until the very last band would come on, you could pretty much watch the whole day sitting down. That was what Glastonbury used to be like. Not no more. This text says, I saw the House of Lords, an American melodic rock band. House of Lords, an American melodic rock band, play at Rock City some years ago. The singer and guitarist James Christian had fallen off a ladder and broken 2 arms 2 days before the show. He still came on stage and played brilliantly. Great concert. People seem to cancel gigs for any small reason nowadays. They need to play and stop whining.
Stop whining.
Yeah, exactly. Let's have East Yorkshire. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Nick. Yeah. Just a little bit about your conundrum about whether to let people use toilets and things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, I did quite a lot of house renovations, and I'll just warn you that if you don't make a toilet available to them, and I've watched this, witnessed it on dozens of occasions, they will use your kitchen sink.
Oh, not if I'm standing in the kitchen at the time, they won't.
No, not if you're there, but if you aren't there and toilets aren't available, if they're being replaced and temporarily not available, if the customer isn't there, people will just use your kitchen sink.
I will protect my kitchen sink with a fondue fork.
Yeah, you better have, because that's true. I've witnessed that dozens of times. But I've actually said to them, just go in the back garden for the house on that. But anyway, the only other thing I've sort of picked up, have you seen Kemi Badenoch's thing that all immigrants aren't equal?
Say it again. the leader of of what used to be the Conservative Party. But I don't think it's the Conservative Party anymore. It seems to be, I don't know, they all seem to be lunatic fringe cranks.
Well, yeah, I mean, I presume this comes back to the idea of the pro-Palestine
well, yeah, I would think so, yeah.
She complained about.
Right, well, of course she did.
But how do we judge? I mean, yeah, there's the economic issue. Yeah, well, I mean, we don't want to flood the country with totally unskilled people. Yeah, I quite understand that on an economic front, but how the hell are you going to sort people based on their cultural and ancestral views on the world?
Yeah, she doesn't mean anything like that. What she means is she's trying to appeal to the bores who prop up the bar at the golf club, who don't like the idea of foreigners coming round their way, but despite the fact that there aren't any foreigners round their way. The people that feel the strongest about it are surrounded by almost 100% white British people.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm familiar with that. But another thing that came up, I had a natter in the pub for some of the guys the other day, and were nattering around bits and pieces and what have you. And James O'Brien was saying, why can't Starmer talk about Brexit? Why can't you be honest about it in bits and pieces?
Yeah.
And I'd always provoke them about Brexit and what have you, and we're joking about the last election.
When you walk through the door at the pub, do the people go, oh, God, here we go. There'll be a massive shouting argument in about 5, 4, 3, 2 seconds out.
Yeah, the last time I went in, I ordered a pint of Guinness in the bar, and it was around the time of the riots, and I kicked it off in about 30 seconds, and I turned around from the pint, and the landlord said, I put your pint in the lounge because you're not staying in here. Because it would wind it up. But what I was getting at, so I was talking to them about the last election and what have you, because in Hull, Reform being a very Brexity area, Reform did very well. And we're just kicking it around, and they said, yeah, well, it's good job, Labour. If Labour had said anything about reversing Brexit, we'd have voted Reform. But we didn't, because Starmer's OK is not talking about Brexit, so we voted Labour. And that was quite a popular opinion, so that's why Starmer isn't going to mention it, because at the next election, it could be Labour versus Reform, and if Farage has a Brexit ticket to go on, he could do a lot of damage.
Assuming that the same people that vote that voted last time will be the same people who vote next time. But all of those, not all of those, but a significant number of the people that voted for Brexit are approaching the end of the conveyor belt of life. And almost all of the younger people who perhaps could not be bothered to vote last time around, or who couldn't because of their age, none of those want Brexit. They will all vote against it or vote for a party that has put its face against Brexit or anything to do with that. And so I think at some point in the not-too-distant future, the number of people that want us to rejoin the EU and think that it's quite right that there's been an absolute flaming catastrophe and none of the promises that were made by oily charlatans have actually come true, then you'd have to be out of your mind as the leader of a political party that is central or towards the left to ignore the vast majority of the people who want that. And you'll have to just dispense with the few grumbling old bores who keep thinking that if they just hang on, then at least some of those promises are going to come true.
Well, if I was Starmer, I would keep working away, doing deals, bits and pieces, but not talking Brexit till after the next election. If they win the next election, I'd go for it full-blooded at that point, because then a lot of people will have dropped off the conveyor belt by that point, and I think that'll work. But tactically, in heavy Brexit areas, Nick, there's still a feeling, and they worship Farage for some reason, and they're easy, as I say, they're easy to wind up and go in and start a blazing rowing for a second.
But easy,
because they're just culted.
Well, the people who like Nigel Farage are the same people who like Donald Trump, and Donald Trump said it best.
I love the poorly educated.
It's the same. It's the same demographic, and I can prove it to you. And it's not just me making it up. I can prove it to you that the people who voted for Brexit are older, poorer, and less well educated than those that voted to stay in the EU. That is just a fact.
Absolutely agree with you. You're absolutely right. There's no doubt about it. When you take a sample of it, they are in that category, Nick.
Yeah.
And there we go.
And the people that are most concerned about foreigners are the ones that aren't that don't have any in their community. The people in London, for instance, where it's about 50-50 British-born and non-Brits, or non-Brit white. The prospect of Londoners voting for Nigel Farage or for Brexit or for the Tories even is just for the birds. I mean, that's a fantasy. That ain't going to happen, because we have experience of others, and it isn't as frightening as people who are completely surrounded by British white people who are in fear of that changing.
Yeah, and they've all got a story about, I've got a mate, and it's like, I don't mean you. But I've still got the number of times you hear that. I'm friendly with them, so there's this Polish guy down the street, he's really good at him and helped me with the garden. I don't mean him.
I don't mean him, no. It's other people, like a fantasy, other like horror fantasies of people, of what might happen in the future, Like some of their best friends are foreigners. I bet you've heard that once or twice. Yeah, thanks for that, Mike.
Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbot. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Everything is going extremely well.
Well, I paused because the screen told me that there was another 5 seconds on that ad, but there wasn't. Lying screen. Liar! Talking about free movement and all of that. The sixth richest country in the world, in this country, the sixth richest country in the world, 2 million older people in England alone are living without the social care help that they need. That's according to estimates a charity has branded deeply worrying. Many are likely to be struggling with things including, but not limited to, getting out of bed and washing. Age UK said that not getting help with these basic tasks increases their risk of falls and serious injury. It said that while the number of people aged over 75 had grown by almost a fifth since 2017, fewer older people have been receiving long-term care through their local authority over this period. But no one was paying the slightest bit of attention to this because someone had once seen Keir Starmer take a stapler from work. No! This report by independent peer Lord Darcy was focused on the NHS, but said a growing gap between people's needs and those getting publicly funded social care in England is placing an increasingly large burden on families and on the NHS. And Prime Minister Skier has said it is not possible to build an NHS for the future if we don't fix social care as we do it, which is very interesting because, in other news, social care leaders have warned of the catastrophic impact that visa tightening policies have had on the sector. New figures from the Home Office published this week have revealed that an 83% decline. It's actually not this week, it was February, March, April, May. New figures from the Home Office in May revealed an 83% decline in the number of monthly applications for skilled care visas. 83% down. It comes as, since March of this year, overseas care workers and senior care workers have been banned from bringing dependents, including partners and children, with them on their visa. The policy, first announced in December last year, came as part of a host of measures by the then Home Secretary, James Cleverly.
Oh, no.
That man again. Which was designed to try to curb the number of immigrant workers in the UK. Latest Home Office figures show that 2,400 people applied for skilled worker health visas in March of this year, compared to 14,300 in March of the previous year, an 83% drop. Cleverly, no?
No.
No. Stupid. The drop comes despite the fact that care services in England continue to rely on overseas recruitment to plug workforce gaps in a sector that has more than 152,000 vacancies.
What?
152,000. And they're making it more difficult to fill those gaps. During last year, the independent social care sector recruited 70,000 people internationally into direct care providing roles. That's up 50,000 from the year before. And that plummeted when the last Tory government decided to try to appeal to the Faragists. And when ironically, of course, it's the older people that voted for reform and the Tory party over and over and over again who are the ones that are suffering. But it's, that's just irony. When the policy was first announced, by Mr. Cleverly, social care leaders sounded the alarm that tightening visa rules risked losing thousands of overseas applicants who are essential to plugging workforce gaps in the sector. But, appeasing some voters who hate the idea of foreigners coming over here was more important to the Conservatives than caring for the elderly, who were more likely to be the very same voters who hate the idea of foreigners coming over here. So, over to you, Skier. Fix social care or keep trying to get the reform voter on side. And I would say select, but it seems like he's selected already. The new Labour government has no plans to change the Tories' plan to deny care workers the ability to bring their family members with them if they come here to take care of us, which sounds a bit like we would prefer them as slaves. Or not at all. What a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
I can't believe it. Fortunately, we have the United States of America to be the world's laughingstock.
Oh, shut up!
Otherwise, it would be us. Speaking of which, Springfield, Oregon. Andrew.
Hey there, how are you?
Good, thanks. Yes, very well.
Well, I'm coming from the point of view of someone who can be seen as an immigrant by everyone, but only once I open my mouth.
Yes.
Until then, they're all happy, they don't care. And then if I open my mouth, they're like...
You ain't from around these parts, are you, boy?
Well, they don't immediately go there, because there's always an option that I might be on their side. But if I sit there and say something bad about Trump, then it's like, get on back on the plane and go back where you came from.
Exactly. Yeah, I would just sit there with a gun on your back and a banjo in your hands.
Yeah, that would feel safer sometimes. I just looked out the window at a friend who was dropping off a trailer, and his buddy was sitting there, handgun on his hip, in the holster, and I'm just thinking, that's just so weird.
Yeah, well, they'll feel like they're action heroes in a Wild West movie. Yeah.
Yeah, Clint Eastwood. Yeah, I was just phoning in. Basically, it's amazing how when people are so anti-immigrant, it's very interesting to see when they realise someone's an immigrant. They've got a law over here that they're trying to pass in the South to say that you can report an immigrant and the cops will have to go investigate it, which tempts me to go down there and have get a lawyer and a friend. As an American national, I'm a dual national, so I could just go down there and wait for someone to report me. Like, oh yeah.
Yeah, assuming that you are white, Andrew, that you're not the kind of immigrant they're concerned about.
I live in the white. Well, that's the thing. I could get someone to say, "Hey, but his accent, that shows he's a foreigner." And when they say that doesn't matter, it's like, yeah, now we see you're racist.
Andrew, as soon as you start talking, you will be the whitest person they've ever met.
Oh yeah, we're considered. You know how Americans think of themselves.
We all know the Queen, and we have tea at 3, according to.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We're all personal friends with the Queen.
Right. I mean, in Oregon, that still might be true. In the boondocks, in some of the states, yes. I mean, in New York, no. They've seen everything and they don't care. They just want you to get out of the way.
I lived in New York before. That was to be honest, a lot more interesting, a lot more fun than Oregon.
A little bit dirtier.
Not very diverse.
Yeah, a little bit dirtier than Oregon, no doubt about that. But yeah, a lot more fun. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, cheers.
Okay, good work. Thanks a lot, mate. 0345 6060 973. Paul says, "Hi Nick, Django Reinhardt, a famous Belgian Romany jazz guitarist, had only 3 fingers on his right hand. He lost them in a fire at 18 the day before his first big tour." I have no way of checking on any of this stuff, but I'll just have to assume that you are correct. Stephen Rimney says, Les Paul actually injured his arm in a car accident during his younger days. The disability was not as a result of a stroke, but the story of him asking for it to be reset in a position that enabled him to continue to play the guitar is one that was often told by the man himself. Well, yeah, that's straight from the horse's mouth. On the other hand, Matt in Sidcup says, David Bowie wrote Under Pressure on some toilet roll at Freddie Mercury's house. That might be true. Well, I hate that song, so I'm going to believe that. That's where it should have stayed, and they should have flushed it. Under Pressure. Awful. That's got to be one of the worst Bowie songs ever. In fact, the collaborations that he did with other people, apart from Bing Crosby, what was the Bing Crosby thing? Was it White? It wasn't White Christmas, was it? It was someone else. Can't remember. Anyway, that's very good. And despite what it looks like on the video, they never actually met, apparently, when they're doing that song. But yeah, Bowie and that awful thing he did with Mick Jagger, dancing in the streets, painful. This says the tune recorded in the middle of the night was Sleepwalk. What tune? Rosie Duffield resigns. Any comments, Nick? No, not really. Another one bites the dust. Hey, hey, hey. Lingfield, Genevieve.
Hello.
Genevieve.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, Genevieve.
Comment ça va?
Ça va bien, merci. Is there a shortening of Genevieve?
Maybe, but I don't know it.
Well, what did you used to get called at school?
Well,
clean it up for us.
We don't want to unlock that trauma.
Right, okay then.
As if.
But Genevieve, it's a 3-syllable name, and and the last syllable is quite long. There's no.
It's only Genevieve.
Oh, Genevieve, right? That's less romantic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But once I met this French person. Because obviously, well, maybe not obviously, the name Genevieve is French origin. And he said to me once, do you know your name in France is like being called Ethel in English? It's like a granny's name.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was so I was like 17 and this lovely French you can imagine was like, I thought was going to say something very romantic and said that, and I just thought, oh, thanks for that.
That was
crushing my dream.
Yeah, that was a bit of a slap.
But anyway, Ethel's probably come back. Everyone's called everyone's called Arthur and Iris and Rose and everything now, aren't they? All the kids.
I don't think so.
All the babies, they're all called that.
They're all called after influencers or soap stars these days.
Oh, what, like Kylie Minogue?
I don't think... Are people called Kylie? I think Kylie's a bit...
Star.
Yeah, but a long, long time ago. I mean, you'd have to be pretty old at giving birth now to still be thinking of Kylie Bloomin' Nogue. No, I don't think so, no. Mind you, no one's called Nicholas these days either, and no one at all ever is called Nigel, and that's never going to come back.
You never know. Maybe in France.
No, definitely not in France.
Nigel,
no. Anyway.
Nigel. Oh, yeah. Anyway, last night I had this realisation that I really like a pop song, or maybe not a pop song, a song with an intro. So I love Club Tropicana from Wham.
Yeah.
Because I love that stiletto walking on tiles noise that happens at the beginning. And I it always sounds like a party. Like someone's walking into a party.
Oh, yeah.
And then I started listening to another song I really like, which is Billy Joel, and it was Good Night Saigon, and it's got a helicopter, like a Chinook or whatever they call them, and it sounds like war or whatever.
Well, it sounds like the beginning of Apocalypse Now.
I haven't seen that, but yeah,
What?
I'd imagine.
Oh, put it on your list, Genevieve.
Thank you, I will. Where do I see that?
It'll be available on an internet. Have you seen the internet? It'll be on there somewhere. Trust me.
I heard of that. I'll look it up.
Yeah.
Is that in the Britannica Encyclopedia?
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, if a gentleman comes knocking to your house and tries to sell you an encyclopedia, then snap A to C right out of his hand. Yeah, Apocalypse Now. It'll be in there.
And so I thought, I wonder. Do you not think it makes a story though? Those pop songs, like when they've got a bit of an intro.
Well, apart from the two that you've just mentioned, I can't think of another one offhand.
Oh, you see, that's just my area.
Imagination running away with you.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, I'm with my sister.
Oh, she's such a pain. She just does not shut up, does she? It's like, yeah.
Shut up. And she's dabbing me. She's yelling at me about how rubbish my conversation is.
Yeah.
Do you know what she wants to talk to you about?
Well, I'm afraid that time's up, Genevieve.
That's what everyone says.
What does she want to talk to me about?
State schools and the funding of them or something.
State schools and the funding of them? Well, they need more of it.
I said that's not really the show.
No.
Well, really
the show goes here, there and everywhere, baby, but I think it's a bit too late to take on the funding of state schools at this hour. But anyway, thank her for thank her for her interest, and tell her never to bother this show again. All right. Cheers, my dear.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Come on, we're running late.
We are running late. This message from next door, my glamorous assistant has typed this up. I think Kylie is still relevant because of Kylie Jenner. Right, I don't really have any idea what you're talking about. And I'm glad about that. It sounds like an area that I shouldn't know anything about, and I don't. This says, Nick, I've often thought that I'd like to be listening to your programme when Armageddon strikes. When Armageddon strikes. Well, let's see if we can make that happen, shall we? Get Vladimir Putin on the phone right now. I want to make fun of his height. Philip in Ho says, Nick, just to add to your book about musicians, the late guitarist Ian Bairnson performed the guitar solo to Kate Bush's Wuthering Heights with his arm in a cast. His guitar sold at auction for £23,000. I have no way of checking whether any of this is true. Ash says, I'm quite happy with the new government. I might get a little annoyed if they come after my benefits, but I'd have still voted for them. I don't care who gives who what. I wouldn't have voted for that last shower if you threatened me. Tony Iommi is another musician that damaged himself but plays on. He lost the tip of a couple of fingers, so he did. Very much enjoying the show. Fresh breath of air, says Ash. Yeah, Tony Iommi. He chopped the end of his fingers off. I think it was an industrial accident, wasn't it? And then he had to loosen the strings of his guitar, which gave them that heavy metal sound. And the rest is history.
Rock and roll!
Troy says, you asked how would they get around James Bond being dead. They handed the 007 ticket to one of the new agents. Lashana Lynch's character, Nomi, was the new 007 at the start of the film. At one point, they were both 007 in a car heading off to fight a new battle together. Broccoli's way of telling the fans she's making changes, it would seem. Yeah, I do remember that, but it's called James Bond. How are they going to get around that? Because 007, I mean, I guess the ticket, if that's what it's called, can be given to anybody, but the viewing public is not going to like that. That's the part that is going to be difficult to get around, which makes you wonder why they killed him off in the last one at all. But it's going to have to be James Bond, not 007, who is called something else. Tricky. Tony says, the new Joker film is out soon. Can't wait. The first Joker film was excellent. Yes, it was. I passed a poster of the new Joker film, and it was, you know, when they give star ratings, and they put the star ratings on a poster, and it was like plastered with 4-star ratings, which these days, it doesn't seem like a ringing endorsement, does it? Because we're used to a 5-star review means it's just barely acceptable. Like if you get out of an Uber and you got there alive, then you'll give it a 5-star review. Because you know that if you give it a 4-star or a 3-star, I mean, 3 is actually where most things are, average. And if the driver picked you up and it was a pretty crummy car, but he got you there alive, well, how is that a 5-star service? I mean, it's unimprovable? Of course not. So 3 would be more accurate. But you know, if you give that driver a 3-star, then the computer is going to say, well, by comparison with all of the other drivers, this driver is an absolute shower and we're not going to give him any work. That's right, isn't it?
Affirmative.
Yeah, the computer will be saying that.
Affirmative.
That's why you've got to give him a 5-star review. So if a film gets anything less than 5 stars, it looks like, well, maybe it's not that good. But 4's not bad. I mean, Apocalypse Now would be a 5-star film. Koyaanisqatsi would be a 5-star film. And then I start running out. Well, it must be, The Godfather, that would be a 5-star film. And, but, so 4 stars, that sounds pretty good. I mean, all across the board. But it just looked like, is that all? But I will see that, because the first one was very good. Right, I've got to speed up now, because I've got through all of these texts and such before I go. Can you just hear that noise? What is that noise? This says, knots and crosses, the crisscross thing. Noughts and knots. Knots, K-N-O-T-S. Noughts. N-O-R-T-S. Get it right. Mike says, a bacon sandwich beats your chips. Yeah, but not walking, though, because you're going to get it all down your front, or at least you will if you're as messy as I am. No, chips. Chips for a staggering walk home from the pub beats any other form of food, because you can hold it in one hand and pick it delicately out of the bag with the other. But if you've got a sandwich, then it's going to go all over you when you're walking. Plus, it looks somewhat indelicate, doesn't it? Ed in Los Angeles says, it feels like the Trump bubble has burst. Harris is going to win. You heard it here first. It does feel like the Trump bubble has burst. It feels as though he's almost like a balloon that has got a slow puncture.
Hot air.
Exactly.
H-O-T-A-I-R.
I couldn't agree more. This text says, the Trump watch looks cheaper than a Hong Kong knockoff. It really does. You've got to see that thing. It is hideous. He says, actually, by comparison, the knockoff would last longer, keep better time, and best of all, save you $999,950. He does want it's not $1 million. He wants $100,000 for some hideous gold watch that has got his name on it and comes with a certificate with his baby scribble that he uses as a signature. That guy, I mean, that's all you need to know. What other politician in history that is running to be the leader of a country is selling so much merchandise? He's a con artist. But, you know, some people just refuse to accept that fact.
I love the poorly educated.
Yeah, they keep giving and giving. This says, did Trump buy a bulk consignment of watches from Del Boy? And how has this helped the local Peckham economy? Well, they're millionaires now. Claudia says, if you look at Liz Truss's bookcase carefully, there is a gap where the books on common sense should be. Keith says, didn't Thatcher say greedy is good, and that's where we are today? And that's why we are where we are today. No, that was Gordon Gekko. Greed is good. What else? Never mind. If Putin presses his red button, we won't need to worry about the weather. Every cloud has a silver lining. Well, every cloud will have a molten hot lining, and it'll be raining all over us.